A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Broadcasting Company's sponsorship of this program constitutes no endorsement of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, with the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting one of the most distinguished couples of the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
Do you remember that article about highbrows and lowbrows? Well, I wouldn't say that Liz and I are exactly highbrow. We're somewhere in the middle-brow classification. We like a Gershwin ballad and a Cole Porter musical, but on the other hand, we enjoy Mozart and Beethoven and Stravinsky. And we like to think that the kids will go along with this. Emily went to the children's concerts at the Philharmonic for one season, and Pete... well, Pete's another story. As a matter of fact, this story. It started on an evening when Pete and I were alone in the living room. Pete?
Yeah, Pop?
What's that you're humming?
Oh, just a song.
Sounded familiar.
It's not very popular.
I thought you were humming Beethoven's Eighth Symphony.
Sure. The words are easy, too.
Words? To Beethoven's Eighth?
Sure. Beethoven, he was great. In his symphony we call the Eighth.
Where did you pick that up?
In school. Music appreciation.
You appreciate that?
Sure. Why not?
Come on, Pete. Come on.
Pop.
No, it's all right. Just come on. Liz!
In the kitchen.
Liz, I have discovered a new art form.
What are you talking about?
Listen to this. Go ahead, Pete. Give her the Beethoven.
Oh, Pop.
Beethoven?
Go ahead, Pete. It's all right. There's nothing wrong.
Well, okay. Beethoven, he was great. In his symphony we call the Eighth.
Any more, Pete?
Sure. Amaryllis is by geese.
I never knew.
Any more?
Sure, lots of them. Narcissus is a flower of wood and stream. It came to Ethel, Bert Nevins, while in a dream.
Is nothing sacred?
Liz, do you realize what's going to happen? Every time they meet a piece of music, it'll have one of these singing commercials tied to it, like a tin can on a dog's tail.
I don't mind, really.
I know what you mean. Someone once told me that champagne tasted like vinegar and seltzer, and ever since it has.
Like the Bach B minor Mass with additional lyrics by Irving Berlin.
Ben, are you really upset, or is it just an excuse for coining epigrams?
Think what they could do with Tchaikovsky or Schubert.
Schubert? I know one by him.
Which one?
This is the symphony that Mr. Schubert never finished.
I know why. He knew this would happen. I don't even dare repeat the lyrics to the Moonlight Sonata. I hadn't given Pete's school much thought in a long time, but a few nights later it came up again. I was writing a brief, a creative literary masterpiece, because the law wasn't very strong on our side, and Liz was helping Pete with his homework.
What were the principal contributions of the ancient Egyptians?
Pyramids, papyrus, hieroglyphics, and mummies.
Is that all?
Isn't that all it says in the book?
Yes it is.
Well, then that's all.
Do you know what the pyramids were, Pete?
Sure. One of the principal contributions of the ancient Egyptians.
No, I mean what they were used for.
Mom, this is homework.
I know, but the pyramids are very interesting. Maybe we could look it up in the Book of Knowledge.
All we're supposed to know is what's in the book.
Well, don't you want to know?
I haven't got time.
Ben. All right, Pete, let's go on.
Okay.
Tell me about papyrus.
What?
Papyrus, you just said it.
You didn't ask the right question.
Well, what do you mean?
You've got to ask the question the right way, like in the book.
Oh, you mean, what were the principal contributions of ancient Egypt?
Pyramids, papyrus, hieroglyphics, and mummies. See?
That's ridiculous.
Ben, you're working. Pete, how about the rest of your subjects? Spelling, reading?
I don't have to do them.
Oh, you don't?
No, it's the same as last year.
The same as last year?
Ben, you're brief.
What do you mean it's the same as last year?
We're doing the work all over again, that's all. Miss Whitaker says it's easier.
Oh, she does. Tell me, Peter, what is this Miss Whitaker like?
Old and very strict.
And you heard her say that it was easier to do last year's work over again?
Sure. Hey, Pop, what is this, a cross-examination?
No, of course not.
Oh.
Liz, do you realize
Later.
that this... But if the teacher is giving a...
Later.
I suppose Liz was right. Shouldn't be discussing Pete's teacher in front of him, even if she did need a little undermining. Later turned out to be when we were going to bed.
Do we need a quilt?
Not tonight. Liz, about Pete's school.
I suppose the class is overcrowded.
That's no excuse. Last year's work. How do they expect a child to keep up that way? It's disgraceful. Liz, you know, the trouble with us is that we ship the children off to school and forget about them.
Oh, do we? Ben, open the window.
Do you realize that Pete spends 5 hours of every weekday with this person? Took more care in picking the babysitters. What do we know about this teacher? An old battle axe that's supposed to be educating our child.
Well, we don't know that she's an old battle axe, for one thing.
Peter says so.
I don't think he's a very reliable witness.
Oh.
You're on my side. Shove over.
No sense in minimizing the problem, Liz. You ought to look into this school business.
I ought to. Pete has a father, too. I don't know how many times I've asked you to come to those PTA meetings. You agree that they're important, but you always manage to find an alibi.
Well, now, most of the evenings I've been working.
Oh.
You let me know when the next meeting is, and I'll make it.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow?
8:30.
Okay. I'm going to do a little digging about this last year's work business.
You may find a PTA meeting a little elusive.
Don't worry. I've had some experience in cross-examination. When I want to find out something, I'll get the facts.
Uh-huh. Ben, you get up and turn off the light.
We arrived at Pete's school 5 minutes early. I wanted to have a chance to buttonhole this Miss Whitaker and get the truth out of her. The building was like many other schools in New York, built sometime in the 1890s and remodeled to the extent of having indoor toilets. The general effect was that of a steel engraving of the Tower of London at the execution of Anne Boleyn.
What's the matter?
Is this it?
Well, don't you remember?
I never saw it after dark.
Distinctly Charles Adams, isn't it?
Oof.
We're room 502. Come on.
Where is she? Liz, which one is she?
Miss Whitaker was there across the room. The one with the gray hair.
In the black bombazine?
That's not bombazine.
Looks as though it ought to be. Come on. I want to get to her before the meeting. Excuse me. Excuse me, please.
Well, hello there. Hello.
Hello. Excuse me.
I don't believe we've met, have we?
No, excuse us.
I'm Dr. Carnahan.
Oh?
Well, how do you do, ma'am? I always like to meet the mothers of my children.
What? Excuse me a minute. will
Ben,
you?
Dr. Carnahan is the principal.
Oh. Well, I'm Ben Marriott. How are you, Mrs. Marriott?
Our Pete is in the 5th grade.
I was trying to reach his teacher.
Miss
over
Whitaker?
there. Yes. There's something very important. Excuse me.
I'll tell you a secret. Yes, I will. I don't mind if it leaks out at all.
Excuse me. Miss Whitaker.
Exactly. You guessed it. If they asked me what I couldn't do without, I'd say, take away the visual aids, take away the Sanford Binet intelligence test, but leave me Miss Whitaker. Yes, sir, she is a teacher's teacher.
I'm sure of it. I just wanted to ask her
Yes,
one
sir, your
thing.
little girl's very lucky to have Miss Whitaker.
It's a boy.
It is? Well, congratulations. I never would have guessed it, ma'am. And when he grows up, he'll have Miss Whitaker, too.
Isn't Miss Whitaker close to retirement age?
Whitaker is like the brook,
Oh?
Mr. Marriott. Men may come and men may
yes,
go.
Yes,
but
know.
I go on forever. Oh, that is Miss Whittaker, you understand, not I.
I understand. If you'll excuse me.
I always like to meet my parents. And now, are there any questions that you might want to ask about the school?
Well, as a matter of fact, yes.
Dan.
Good.
It's about the level of the work in the 5th grade.
That's a very good question.
But I haven't asked.
It shows a very sound grasp of our whole educational problem here.
But you don't
it's
know
a pleasure,
what I'm...
to meet a parent with that much knowledge of pedagogy. Well, if you'll excuse me, it's about time I started the meeting.
The meeting was chaired by one of the mothers, a young woman who seemed to have committed Robert's Rules of Order to memory. Dr. Carnahan was called on to say a few words. Having been given this in, she took a mile.
And I want to welcome you 5th grade parents, many of whom I once knew as 4th grade parents.
It's been going on for 20 minutes. I want to ask
I
a
have
question.
one other announcement.
Ben.
With the high percentage of Spanish-speaking children from Puerto Rico enrolled in the school, we're planning a Caribbean festival in order to bring our parents closer together. That is, the separate sets of parents. It'll be on Wednesday the 12th, and we're hoping for a 100% turnout of parents.
Question.
Ben,
particularly the fathers.
I've got a right to
Now, I'd be
ask
very
a
happy
question.
to sign up volunteers.
Ben, put your hand down.
I won't.
I see a hand. There's a volunteer.
He means you.
Ah, yes, Mr. Marriott. I'm glad to see a father taking the lead. We're very glad to have you.
What did I do?
The first meeting is next Friday night
Meeting?
of the 5th grade Fathers Caribbean Festival Committee. You've just volunteered.
The meeting went on and on. Afterwards, when Liz and I left the old building, we stopped and looked up at it.
This is the new part, Ben. When the rear wing was built, Ulysses Grant was in the White House.
Look at those windows on the first floor. Colored paper cutouts.
That's the kindergarten. It's sort of pathetic. That terrible gray stone front and those little splotches of color.
Yeah, well, come on.
I warned you. PDA meeting might prove elusive.
I spotted that Whittaker woman right after the meeting while you were getting your coat, and I'd have reached her, too. But I was soaked up by Dr. Carnahan again.
He is a little absorbent.
Yes, he wanted to congratulate me about volunteering.
The 5th grade Fathers Caribbean Festival Committee. South America, take it away.
I'll get out of that.
Ben, you wouldn't chicken out.
Elizabeth, if you'd been in the Army, you wouldn't say that. What gets me is that I wasn't able to get any kind of an answer from that Whittaker woman on Pete's repeating last year's work.
Well, you did accomplish something.
That isn't all I accomplished. I ran around Carnahan's end, and no mean feat, by the way, and managed to catch Miss Whittaker before she went back into the woodwork.
What did you find out?
Nothing. Carnahan was bearing down on me on the starboard tack, but I'll find out.
At the next PDA meeting?
No. Tomorrow night. I invited Miss Whittaker to dinner. I broached the subject of our expected dinner guest at breakfast.
Oh, no, Pop, no.
You have some objection, Pete?
Oh, no.
Well, what is it? Don't you like Miss Whittaker?
Sure, but she's a teacher.
I know. That's why we're having her.
But you don't have teachers to dinner.
Well, we have lots of guests to dinner. You've never objected before?
You never had a teacher before.
How about Uncle Arthur? You like him?
He just teaches school. He isn't a teacher.
You mean he isn't your teacher?
That's right. Look, Pop, suppose I tell her you're sick. Or I could tell her Emily has the mumps.
Never mind. We've invited Miss Whittaker to dinner, and she's coming.
Oh, no.
You've said that.
Can't you explain why you're so upset?
Well, teachers are teachers over here. And parents, well, they're parents over here.
And never the twain shall meet, eh?
But what if somebody should find out?
Pete, I think you're making too much fuss about this. We're just interested in your schoolwork.
Mom, he's going to cross-examine her.
Never mind, dear. You go get your tie on for school.
But, Mom...
Go ahead.
I've got some rights, haven't I?
See what I mean?
No.
Our child is afraid to have a teacher come to dinner. Why?
Ben, it's just his sense of propriety. Children are very conservative.
What have politics got to do with it?
Not politics. He wants situations he's used to. The teacher in school, the parents at home. When you get it mixed up, he gets nervous.
Sounds as though he'd got something to hide.
Well, that isn't it at all. I hope.
Well, once I get that Whitaker woman here, I'll get the truth.
Ben, Pete's right. You can't cross-examine her. Not when she's ugly.
There are some things that are more important.
Pop,
What is it?
I could tell you broke her leg.
Don't bother.
Well, maybe you will.
Being somewhat uncooperative about these things, I managed not to break my leg by evening. Emily neglected to contract the mumps, so the dinner went off on schedule.
Pete, would you like another helping of potatoes?
No, thanks. I'm not hungry.
Oh, Miss Whitaker?
Oh, no, thank you. This is fine.
Well, Miss Whitaker, very nice meeting you this way. There's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Mom, can I have some more potatoes? Pop, would you please pass my plate?
Oh, certainly. Well, Miss Whitaker, you know, I wanted to speak to you at the PTA meeting, but now we can have a real talk.
Pop, my plate.
Here you are. Let's see. Oh, yes. You know, there are a number of questions about the schoolwork,
Gravy,
which I think...
please?
What was that?
Would you pass my plate for gravy, please?
Here you are, Peter. Don't you think you could decrease the traffic up and down my side of the table?
I'm sorry.
Oh, what was I saying?
I knew that if I had a chance to speak to you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'll withdraw that.
Ben.
I mean, it isn't just Peter's marks, you understand.
Oh?
Tell me, Miss Whitaker.
I know a riddle.
Pete, I'm talking.
I'm sorry.
That's better.
It's a real good one.
I'm sure Miss Whitaker hears enough riddles all day, Peter.
Oh, no, I collect them.
All right. Go ahead, Pete.
What did the bop musician say when he saw the end of the movie Salome with the head on the silver platter?
We all give up.
Man, dig that crazy dessert. I read that in the newspaper this morning.
Are you quite finished, Peter?
I'm afraid so.
Well, Miss Whitaker, what I've been trying to get out of...
It is amusing.
What is, Miss Whitaker?
That crazy dessert.
Dinner went on over a number of conversational barricades hastily thrown up by Peter as he retreated to a defense in depth. Finally, dinner was over.
Cigarette, Miss Whitaker?
No, thank you.
Well, Pete, guess you better go into your room and start on your homework.
I thought maybe I could do it after Miss Whitaker left.
Peter, go ahead.
Well, good night, Miss Whitaker.
Good night, Peter.
Good night, Mom.
Good night, dear.
Pete?
I'm afraid Peter doesn't seem very hospitable.
Oh, children never do. They're always embarrassed, afraid their parents will make a faux pas.
Now, Miss Whitaker, I'm glad to be able to talk to you.
So am I, Mr. Marriott.
You see, frankly, we were disturbed by a number of things, and I made up my mind to find out.
I see.
Do you feel... No, let me put it this way. Don't you agree that the most important attitude a child can develop is the desire for knowledge?
I suppose so.
Ah. Then, don't you agree that the job of the teacher...
No.
is... Well, I haven't asked the question.
But I don't think you have to. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to see you. It's about the job of the teacher.
But,
Mr. Marriott, do you know how many children are in your son's class?
Well, no.
54. There should be only 20. Do you know how many teachers were appointed in this city last summer and failed to report for their jobs?
Well, I read something about that. I don't remember the number.
200. At least 3 in our school. Why, one of the new teachers quit to take a job driving a brewery truck at an increase of 30% in pay. And he didn't need a master's degree for that.
Miss Whitaker, I realize that the school system is in difficulty.
Well, now, that's not the point I'm making, Mr. Marriott. I'm not a financial expert or an economist. I'm interested in the children and in their parents.
The parents?
The only thing that can change our school situation is the parents, because I can't do that job alone, and I know it.
Now, that's something I wanted to ask you about.
For example, now, what do you do to supplement the school program, Mr. Marriott?
Well,
Do you take Peter to the museums on trips around the city? Do you help him select radio and television programs that have some positive value?
Well, yes. To a certain extent.
Of course, you'll be participating in the school program, and I think that's very constructive of you.
I will be?
Well, yes, the 5th grade Fathers Caribbean Festival Committee. You're one of the few volunteers.
Oh, yes.
Of course, I told Dr. Carnahan it was a mistake. I don't think you meant to volunteer.
Well, as a matter of fact, I wasn't...
so few fathers are interested enough in the school program.
Well, I'm interested.
Now, for example, we wanted to get someone who's used to public speaking to act as master of ceremonies, perhaps an attorney.
An attorney?
But so few professional fathers seem to have a sense of responsibility to the school.
I don't think that's true.
You don't?
No, I think, well, attorneys have as much sense of responsibility as anyone.
Enough to volunteer as master of ceremonies for the Caribbean Festival?
Why, yes, of course. As a matter of fact, I'm a lawyer myself.
Yes, I know. I'll tell Dr. Carnahan he can count on you as MC. Well, I think this has been a very constructive meeting. And now I think I'd just better say good night to Peter and be off. I've really had a lovely time.
When I came to bed that night, Liz had a shawl over her head and a rose between her teeth. All right.
Seriously, Ben, what did you think of Miss Whitaker?
Well, I don't know. She's a bear on cross-examination.
I was awfully impressed. She's such a dynamic woman when you consider her age. She's over 60.
You noticed she ducked my questions.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I think she answered all of them, in a way.
How about Pete's repeating last year's work? I didn't even get a chance to bring it up.
No, you didn't at that.
Well, I'll find out about it. I'll see her again.
At the fiesta?
And that's another thing. I thought that was pretty low.
But you volunteered.
When I was in the Army, the sergeant used to say, I want 3 volunteers for a detail. You, and you with the glasses. That was always me. Miss Whitaker must have served in the same platoon. On Friday night, the 5th grade Fathers Committee met in the school auditorium under the direction of that eminent Latin American, Dr. Carnahan.
All right, gentlemen. Gentlemen, let's proceed with the organization of our little band. Mr. Schultz, you're playing marimba. Mr. Garcia, the guitar. Mr. Fernandez, the bongo drum.
Bongo, si.
Well, let's see who is left over.
I am.
Oh, yes, Mr. Marriott. How do you feel about the maracas?
Well, I can take them or leave them alone.
Well, all right. Here you are.
Like that?
More or less. All right, now, if you'll just come in when I give you the downbeat. You start, Mr. Marriott. 1 and 2. Mr. Marriott?
They got caught in my cuff.
All right, now. 1 and 2 and... Is that all you can get out of them, Mr. Marriott?
I kind of froze.
Do you have trouble with your coordination, Mr. Marriott?
Certainly not.
We need rhythm, Caribbean rhythm. Did-he? Did-he?
These don't go did-he.
Mr. Marriott, we borrowed these instruments from the kindergarten rhythm band.
I'll try again, Dr. Carnahan.
Perhaps it'd be better if we saved you for the MC portion. Would you mind just sitting down and waiting?
But I can do it.
Thank you.
I could learn.
I'm sure you can, Mr. Marriott, but time is limited, you know. All right. The rest of you gentlemen, 1 and 2.
I was a little depressed, so I went out in the hall to get a smoke. There's somebody out there already smoking. I borrowed a light from him.
Here you are, senor.
Oh, thank you. You a 5th grade father?
Huh? Oh, see, my boy, 5th grade, see.
I'm Ben Marriott.
I, Fernando Ramon.
How do you do, Mr. Ramon? Are you in this Caribbean Festival affair?
Festival? Oh, yes. I seen son from Puerto Rico.
Oh, then you really know what you're doing. You're from Puerto Rico, aren't you?
From San Juan, see. My family come here just last month.
And your boy's in school already? My, that must be pretty hard. Does he speak English?
Un poquito. He learned a few words in Puerto Rico, but he very good boy. Fast. He learned much faster than his father did in night school.
No, I suppose that's always the way. How does he like the school?
Oh, very, very much. Mostly. They very good in this school for Spanish-speaking boys. The others help teach.
Oh, you mean there are extra teachers?
No. The teacher said to the English-speaking boy, you help Jose. So they read last year's book to make it easy.
Last year's? They did last year's work so that the kids could help each other?
Así fue la cosa, señor. My Jose, he tell me his friend, very good teacher, talk about him all the time, all day long. Pizza. Must be very fine boy.
Yes, I think he must be. Pete, are you awake?
What's the matter, Pop?
I just wanted to talk to you.
In the middle of the night?
I was at the school tonight. You ought to keep covered up. I met one of the fathers, Mr. Ramon.
Ramon? That must be Joe's father.
I had quite a talk with him.
You did?
He told me that his boy, Jose, liked school very much.
Well, he hasn't been here long.
Peter, when you told me you were doing last year's work over, why didn't you tell me that it was so you could help Jose?
You didn't ask me. Is that all, Pop?
You don't mind helping Jose? Don't mind doing that work over again?
Why should I?
What, don't you get bored repeating the same thing over again?
Look, Pop. Joe told me the first week he was in New York, he got lost downtown, around 34th Street. He couldn't speak more than a few words of English. He kept asking people how to get home, but nobody could understand him. He went to a policeman, and they took him to the police station.
Go on.
There wasn't anyone who could speak Spanish. I was thinking how I would feel, lost, and nobody I could talk to. Nobody who could understand anything I said. You see?
I see.
This way, if Joe learns how to talk English and read okay, he doesn't have to be scared. He can take care of himself. Anyway, Miss Whitaker says we'll both be learning something important. You know, I don't know what she means. Joe's the one who's learning, not me.
I think I know what she means.
Is there anything else, Pop?
I don't think so, Peter. Good night.
Good night, Pop.
Ben and Liz Marriott will be back in just a moment. In the meantime, let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation of the marriage. Today's story was written by Ernest Kenoy with Irene Hubbard as Miss Whitaker, Wendell Holmes as Mr. Carnahan, and Juana Hernandez as Mr. Ramon. David Pfeffer was heard as Pete. The Marriage is an NBC Radio Network production, directed by Edward King. This is Bob Denton speaking.
Oh, Ben, you mean he took the maracas away from you?
Didn't even give me a chance. But I'm ready for him.
You are?
Mr. Ramon said it was only fair. Pete was teaching his Jose English. He'd teach me the maracas. Listen.
Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin in The Marriage. The sponsors of this program offer no endorsement of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, with the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting by transcription one of the most distinguished couples of the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
When Emily was a baby, I remember how she learned to hold on to things months before she learned to let them go. I suppose it's the same with parents. You put so much of yourself into your children that it's almost too hard to just back away as they grow up. But of course you have to. That's the way we've tried to raise the children. We've tried to be intelligent and follow whatever theory seemed sensible at the time, always adding a little prayer that Pete or Emily might live through whatever crisis turned up. The other evening, we were all sprawled out in the living room after dinner.
Daddy.
Huh?
Don't you think the light is better for reading in your bedroom or the kitchen?
No.
Oh. Mommy, aren't you going to do the dishes now?
Oh, I thought I'd just sit a minute.
But you can't.
Huh?
Well, there's somebody coming.
Who?
A boy. It's Alan Mercedes. He's taking me to the senior formal dance.
Formal? Well, why didn't you tell me, dear?
I didn't really know until this afternoon. Usually only junior or senior girls go.
There's an exception in your case?
He just asked me, that's all. He's a senior.
Oh.
He's coming tonight to ask me to go with him.
I thought he'd asked you already.
Oh, no, he just told me he was going to ask me.
Oh, I see.
I've got to talk to him. I mean, I've got to talk to him alone. You don't mind going in the kitchen, do you?
Of course not, dear.
No. When he comes, we'll disappear.
Hey, Mom, she's got a new sweater on.
I know, Pete.
Hey, she's got it buttoned up the back. What's she wearing it buttoned up the back for? Mommy, make him stop. And stockings. Mom, is she allowed to wear stockings on weekdays?
Why, you little monster.
Anyway, the seams aren't straight.
You shut up.
Look, Schmo.
Peter, I think your sister has a point.
Mommy, if he says something, if he so much as opens his mouth, I'll...
You and what army?
I don't need any help to handle you. I could take you on with one hand tied behind my back.
Mother, would you please handle this situation? I think I'd better answer the door. What happened to her?
Never mind, Pick. You pick up your gear and go into your room.
Oh.
Liz,
What?
why does she have her sweater buttoned up the back?
Because, darling, she's 15 years old. Alan Mercedes was a young man in charcoal gray flannels with a tasteful Tattersall vest. Ben and I were a little subdued. Up to this point, boys calling on Emily ran to dungarees and red and yellow jackets labeled Monarchs AC. Mr. Mercedes appeared to be one of those suave young specimens who pose against ivy-colored walls in the Times magazine section. He lit a cigarette and handled his lighter like an old pro. I noticed he stood about a head taller than Ben. Ben must have noticed it, too, because he kept standing on his toes.
Oh, it is nice meeting you, sir.
Thank you, Alan.
And Mrs. Marriott. It's easy to see why Emily is such a pretty girl.
Oh, thank you, Alan.
Oh, this is such a pleasant room. Isn't that table a gem system original?
Almost.
Has very fine lines.
Mother.
Yes. If you'll excuse us, Alan.
Oh, of course. Mrs. Marriott, will I see you before I leave?
Huh? I suppose so.
Then I can make my devoirs later.
Come on, Ben.
I hope you don't mind, Alan. I didn't change. I thought you'd understand.
Oh, of course I do.
I suppose I should start the dishes.
Devoirs.
It's French, darling.
I know. Liz, what do you think of him?
Well, he's mature.
Mm-hmm.
Poised.
Yes, he is that.
Charming.
Definitely.
Self-assured.
I don't trust him.
Ben.
What's he got to be so self-assured about?
Sit down, Ben. You want some more coffee? It's still hot.
That is a high school senior?
That's what they said.
I've seen less mature young men practicing before the state Supreme Court.
Sugar and cream?
I'll take it black.
Are you worried?
He reminds me of a fellow I knew who was expelled from Princeton.
What for?
I'd rather not say. That's what reminded me of him.
Ben, you're absolutely Victorian.
Sending a 15-year-old girl out with a man like that is like sending a little lamb out with a ravening tiger. Seriously, Liz, Em hasn't been out on a date like this before. Can she handle it? I mean, is she ready to understand? I mean, does she know... Well, does she?
We've always answered all our questions honestly. Ben, 15-year-olds today know things we learned just last year.
You know, if it were one of those gangly louts and sneakers that usually hang out here, I wouldn't mind. She'd at least have an even chance. But this one looks as though he'd been out with every chorus girl at the Copa.
Oh, Ben, be sensible. You know we couldn't interfere with Emily's dates. We've just got to trust her.
Oh, I do. I trust her, all right. I trust her. I don't trust him. What was that?
The front door.
My, he left without making his devoirs.
Come on.
Emily?
She's in her room.
Where's Alan?
He left. Pop, he said he wasn't taking him.
He what?
I left my door open to listen. He told Emily some girl, Gloria something, was speaking to him again. So we had to take her.
Oh, Ben.
If I get my hands on that boy, I'll break everything.
Pete, go to your room, will you, dear?
Okay, Mom. Call me if you need me.
Yeah.
Now, Ben. Ben, get a hold of yourself.
Get a hold of myself, nothing. I think he's behaved like a real stinker. I could wring his neck.
I know, darling, I know, but that wouldn't help Emily.
Poor kid.
Oh, she'll be heartbroken.
Daddy.
Yes, dear.
Can I use your typewriter for my homework?
Oh, of course.
Thanks. I'll be awful careful. Oh, we won't have to worry about the formal dress.
We won't?
No, I'm not going to the dance. There was something that, came up. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Well, the dress would have been awfully expensive anyway. Oh, Alan said to say goodnight. He felt badly about not seeing you before I left. He's very polite that way.
He is, eh? Well, I know some...
Ben.
Well, that's sad, isn't it?
Can I come in now?
It's all right, Pete.
Emily, I was kind of supposed to go with Freddie Hoffmeyer Saturday afternoon to the rodeo.
Oh.
I saved up, but I don't really want to go much. I mean, I saw it 2 years ago. Emily, would you like to take my ticket?
Pete,
Go ahead, Em. I want you to go. Really. It's a very good seat. Mom, I didn't mean to make Emily cry.
I know, dear, I know. It was very sweet and thoughtful of you. I'm sure Emily thinks so, too, only... Well, I guess she's...
Yeah, the louse.
Pete.
I'm sorry.
Ben, couldn't we get Emily something? She does need an evening gown anyway. I could die for her, really. Her first formal...
Now, don't you start
it. That boy. If I could get my hands on him... Pete was right. He is a louse. A pall hung over the Marriott household that evening. The atmosphere was a little like the last act of Cyrano. Bittersweet and bravely tragic. Quite seriously, I was worried about Emily. I was afraid that if she brooded on her failure, she might be a long time coming out of it. And this year, the 16th year of a girl's life, is too sweet and exciting a time to be buried in gloom and defeat. I made up my mind to have a talk with her that afternoon.
Did you want something, Mom?
Emily, about that dance, dear.
Oh, the dance.
It seems awfully important to you now, but there will be others.
I don't care about the others, Mom. This is the important one. I've just been thinking about it all day.
Emily, you mustn't...
Mom, I've got to decide what I'm going to wear.
Where?
Well, of course.
You're going?
Well, naturally. Bobby Logan asked me this morning. He's a senior.
A little more trustworthy than the last one, I hope.
Oh, sure. I don't have to worry this time. The girl he was going with before got married to a boy in the Navy.
Well, that sounds pretty secure. Well, I have to collect myself. Well, you'll need a new dress.
Shoes?
Well, you can use my black evening bag and the wrap. Are you sure that girl is married?
Yes, she sent us a postcard from Atlantic City.
I'd feel a little better if it were Niagara.
Hello.
In here, Ben. Emily, depending on the dress, would you like to borrow that lace half-slip of mine?
The one from Paris? Oh, Mommy.
Hello, Emily, dear. You know, about that dance. I imagine it seems awfully important to you now, but there'll be other ones.
Ben, for heaven's sake, where have you been?
At the office. I stopped for a minute on the way.
You can heat up that leftover roast beef for you and Pete, and there's some salad all cut up. Would you like beer?
Yes, I like beer. Liz, would you...
Not now, dear, not now. The stores are open late tonight, and Emily and I have a lot of shopping to do. She's going to the dance.
She's going. But I don't think I approve of that boy.
Oh, it isn't him. It's another one.
Another one?
His girl married a sailor. We really haven't time to go into the details. Oh, and Ben.
What?
Wash the dishes. We took the bus to Huntsfifth Avenue. I used to work there as a buyer, and a sudden wave of nostalgia swept over me as we sank ankle-deep in the carpets of the junior miss department. I'd made up my mind that Emily could pick out her own dress. I had the memory engraved on my mind of going with Mother to Jordan Marsh and writhing in agony while she picked out my first evening gown. An apoplectic red velvet that Mother said would wear like iron. To my horror, it did, and it hung around my neck through college like the ancient mariner's albatross. This, I determined, would not happen to Emily. The first try-on had a hoop skirt.
It's the latest, delicately fitted at the waist with cascades of shimmering color billowing out over cleverly concealed hoops.
Mom, what happens if I want to sit down?
Try it, dear.
Well, all right.
Whoops. You better pass up the hoop skirt.
This is an entirely new silhouette, narrow, delightfully clinging, a simple yet classic sheath. Note the provocative slip up the side.
It looks a little like the Shanghai gesture.
I don't think I could sit down in this one either.
Don't try, dear. He'll never get it together again.
And, of course, the shining glory of the bare shoulder and the strapless gown. Clever boning and darling little tucks provide interest at the décolletage.
It looks all right, doesn't it, Mommy?
It does. I wouldn't have thought it.
There's only one thing wrong. If I wear this, by the end of the evening, I'll be a nervous wreck.
And then we found it. At least I found it. Simple, just a little daring, but perfect. And I sat there with my fingers crossed while Emily made up her mind.
Well, it's between the white and the yellow.
Oh, I wouldn't say exactly yellow, Emily. It's sort of a sunny straw, a golden apricot.
Oh, let's face it, Mommy, it is yellow. Which do you like?
It's up to you, dear.
But which one do you like best?
Oh, I think they're both lovely. But don't you think the white one is a little high? I don't think I've ever seen a turtleneck evening gown.
It's all right, Mommy. I like the yellow one better, too.
We whirled through the store collecting accessories. And then we stopped at a restaurant on the way home and felt very close and clubby over cottage cheese salad and tea. Saturday night seemed a long time coming. But finally Emily was in her room dressing. And the family settled down to await the coming of the gentleman caller.
What's the name of this one, Liz?
Logan. Bobby Logan.
And he's a senior, too?
Now, Ben, don't worry.
Mom?
Yes, dear?
Can I borrow some of your perfume?
All right. The little square bottle. It's called compromise.
Mm-hmm.
It's not compulsory.
Do they take taxis?
This one drives. I understand he's got a convertible. At any rate, there's no top. I assumed it was a convertible.
Liz, do you think there's been a sort of change in the standards of adolescence since the automobile?
Boys had automobiles when I was dating, darling.
Not New York boys. There wasn't much that could happen when you took a date home on the Broadway trolley.
Unless you had to transfer. Now, Ben, these girls haven't had a sheltered life. Really, they've changed.
So have the boys. Liz, I don't think that Emily would know how to handle an enthusiastic Cub Scout.
Oh.
Mommy, I'm ready. Shall I come out?
I understand it's a surefire theatrical trick to keep a girl dressed in unpressed trousers and a baggy shirt for 2 acts, and then reveal her in the third in a lovely feminine gown. Well, I can believe it. Emily, our little, barely post-adolescent Emily, swept into the room, her bouffant skirt swirling around her, her hair shining and her eyes sparkling. There was an uncomfortable silence, and finally Peter said just the right thing.
Hey, Emily, you're beautiful.
Emily retired to her room, where presumably she hung herself up in the closet to avoid creasing. I could see Ben was getting apprehensive. He nearly jumped a foot when the doorbell rang.
I'll get it.
Oh, I'm sorry. It must be stuck.
Oh, it does that. Here, I'll get it.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to disturb you.
That's all right. Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, I was looking for Marriott.
Well, this is it.
Oh. Well, I guess I better come in then.
Yeah. I'm Mr. Marriott.
Oh, how do you do, sir?
I didn't catch your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't speak very distinctly. I'm supposed to take speech improvement.
Oh, that's too bad. But, I don't think you gave me your name.
I'm Bobby. Bobby Logan.
Emily will be ready in a minute.
This is Mrs. Marriott, Bobby Logan.
Oh, how do you do, ma'am?
Nice to see you, Bobby.
Smoke?
Oh, no. No, I play basketball.
Oh. How tall are you, Bobby?
6'2". But I'm still growing.
Goodness.
I lop over my bed.
You do? That must be a problem.
Oh, no, sir. I sleep sort of diagonal.
Oh, the best way.
You know, I really ought to apologize. I mean, asking Em at the last minute like this.
Oh, no.
I really wanted to go with her all the time, but Alan Mercedes said he was, and I didn't think it was worth my asking. I don't mean it wasn't worth it, but I didn't think I had a... Well, if you knew Alan, you'd know what I mean.
Yeah, we've met Alan.
Hello, Bobby. I'm sorry I kept you waiting.
Bobby?
Hello, Emily. I bought you flowers, but they were behind the chocolate pudding in the icebox, and I forgot them.
Oh, that's all right.
We'll get some on the way.
Well, good night. Have a good time.
Oh, yes, sir. Good night.
Good night, Mommy. Good night, Daddy.
1:00, Emily.
Okay, Dad. Well, good night.
I'm awfully sorry about the flowers, Emily.
Oh, that's all right. Bobby,
What?
you're standing on my dress.
Oh.
Emily swept out of the door in a cloud of taffeta and compromise. And I know it must sound, well, sort of squashy. But I couldn't help remembering her all wrinkled and bawling in the bassinet at New York Hospital. Or toddling off to nursery school in corduroy overalls. I had a frightening sense of hurtling downhill in a roller coaster. And I guess I felt I had to apply the brakes. I'm usually an occasional sherry after dinner drinker. But this was a crisis.
What are you doing, Liz?
Fixing a little something. Would you like anything?
Whatever you're having. Say, what's the occasion?
Oh, nothing. To modern youth, self-assured, poised, and sensible.
Is that a toast or a prayer?
Oh, for goodness sake, Ben. I went out to a formal dance when I was 15. The boys carried pocket flats.
In Boston?
I'm not quite sure what I was trying to prove, but I took 3 quick drinks and floated off. I kept telling Ben how mature I'd been at 15.
Sounds as though you'd lived on Tobacco Road.
I'm just trying to show you there was nothing to worry about.
That's pretty far back for you to remember.
Far back? Far back? Why, it was only yesterday. Only yesterday.
And all our yesterdays are turned to dusty...
Oh, Ben. We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat
You're not
wave.
pouring another one.
Oh, no, it's the same one. We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. Ben, they played that at my first formal dance. Oh, it's a wonderful song.
All I remember from that era is, brother, can you spare a dime?
Come on, Ben.
Oh, we going somewhere?
Come on, let's dance.
Dance?
Why not? I was very lovely at my first dance. Oh, I was very lovely. And I was kissed behind a potted palm.
Palm isn't the only thing that's potted.
Come on, Ben. We're having a heat wave.
We certainly are.
But I was in complete control of the situation. I assure you, even though I was but 15, I was in complete control of the situation. And don't think there wasn't a situation.
Oh, I don't.
And the girls today, are you listening?
Intently.
The girls today, if they'd been there then, would be just as competent. Because today is just like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Do I make myself clear?
You've made yourself transparent.
Oh, isn't that nice? I look just like Emily. Only, of course, she's prettier. And I was the master of the situation. Should that be mistress?
Well, it depends on the situation.
Oh, it was a lovely situation. Ben, what time is it?
Are you all right now?
Cold soaked. Ben, it's 1:30.
I know.
You asked Emily to be in at 1.
I know.
Ben, at 12 minutes of 2. No, a quarter of. I'm going to call the hospital.
We would have heard if there'd been an accident.
They were driving.
That Joe Ganglefoot she's with probably drives like a drunk.
Drunk? Ben, you don't think...
She's only half an hour late. So far.
Half an hour? Ben, anything could happen in half an hour.
Liz, don't.
Why didn't you tell her she had to be in by
We've
1?
never behaved that way. We've tried to teach the children respect for limits.
You should have laid down the law.
No, I don't feel like a law layer down.
Well, you've got to. It's a father's responsibility. It's about time you exercised authority. When she comes home, you've got to talk to her. Really talk to her.
Yes, well, I suppose so.
Well, there's no question about it. You've got to be firm. I'm going to call the police.
Now, Liz, don't be hysterical.
I'm not being hysterical. It's a sensible thing to do. I'm perfectly calm. Well, what do I do? Say I want a policeman?
I think you better dial first.
Oh, well, I'll dial. Oh.
Wait a minute.
What is it?
I think they drove up in front of the house.
Are you sure?
Come here. Here. Look out the window.
Well, where are they?
Still in the car.
What's happening?
Either she's dropped her gloves on the floor
Or what?
I think he kissed her.
What's happening now?
Encore.
Oh, I can't see. Ben, you're in the way.
Don't let them see you.
I won't. Well, thank goodness, here she comes.
Yeah.
Now, Ben, you remember.
All right.
Emily?
Are you still up, Mom?
Ben?
Emily? I hope you had a good time. We've been just a little worried. Almost 2 o'clock. Your mother was very concerned.
Yes, Dad.
Now, look, Emily, don't you think you could be a little more considerate? Try. What did I say?
Can't you see something's wrong?
Well, maybe I'd better...
You stay right there.
Oh, don't you want me to go?
Emily? Oh, there now, darling. It's all right. It's all right.
Mom.
Do you want to tell me about it, dear?
I had a good time. Really, I did. I had a wonderful time.
Of course, dear. It's all right now.
I was all tied inside. Mommy, I didn't know how to feel.
Well, what happened, dear?
Well, I like Bobby, really. But I couldn't think what to say to him. All the girls seemed so smart. I tried. I was very clever. I said some very funny things.
I know, dear.
He's such a shy boy. At least I thought he was. I had it all made up in my mind to let him kiss me. I didn't know if I wanted him to. But I was afraid to stop him. He was so serious. I just wanted to roll up into a ball. I was so ashamed.
He kissed you, dear?
6 times. Honestly, just went on and on. I was so scared.
Was that's what it was?
I shouldn't have been scared. I shouldn't have been.
You can't help that, darling.
I didn't know what to do.
You know, Emily, you were very beautiful in your evening gown.
I was?
It's hard to blame Bobby for wanting to kiss you.
Mom, the first time I closed my eyes.
I always do.
You do?
I'm not surprised that he wanted to keep on kissing you. Darling, a man does that when he's fond of a woman.
A woman?
Well, more or less.
Then it's all right, Mommy.
Emily, darling, I think you did very well.
I did?
Uh-huh.
Is Daddy mad at me for being so late?
That's all right, dear. Just leave it to me. We women have to help each other, don't we? You go on. Get ready for bed. It's late.
Mommy? I think being a woman's awful nice.
Ben and Liz Marriott will be back in just a moment. In the meantime, let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation and transcription of The Marriage, written by Ernest Kenoy. Denise Alexander plays Emily, David Pfeffer, Pete, Jack Grimes was heard as Alan, and William Redfield as Bobby Logan. The Marriage is an NBC Radio Network production directed by Edward King. This is Bob Denton speaking.
Is Emily all right now?
She's fine.
What was she crying about?
Because she's discovered something wonderful.
What's that?
Never mind, darling. I don't think you could understand.
Oh. No, I suppose not. Well, good night.
Good night, darling.
Listen to The Hollywood Story next on the NBC Radio Network.
Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin in The Marriage. The sponsors of this program offer no endorsement of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, With the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting by transcription one of the most distinguished couples of the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
The law firm I work for isn't particularly colorful. We have no lean, rural philosopher peeling apples into his plugged hat with his feet on the desk. We have no hard-drinking, superbly muscled young man who solves murders one jump ahead of the police. Connolly, the senior partner, is fat, 57, and an expert in corporation tax law. Hochberg, the junior, is an excellent violinist and only went into law because his father-in-law convinced him that a musician couldn't make much of a living. But the other day, an unusual case did come into the office, and I was assigned. I was still thinking about it at home that night as Liz and I lingered over the coffee.
Ben, aren't you feeling well?
Huh?
You've been sitting there with a vacant stare all through dinner.
I haven't.
Then why did you just pour French dressing in your coffee?
Did I? Yeah.
I'll get you another cup. Is there something wrong?
No, nothing wrong.
You just like French dressing in your coffee.
I was thinking.
Oh.
Liz, we could use a larger apartment, couldn't we? With an extra room as a study?
Well, I suppose so.
Now, don't go counting on it, Liz. I mean, you can't build up a lot of hopes on a wild promise.
I'm not building anything on anything. What are you talking about?
Well, we have a new client. Jake Haggister.
Oh?
Don't you get the picture?
Is there a picture?
Liz, Haggister is big business. He's got a tremendous corporate structure.
Has he tried dieting?
Liz, it's our big chance. If I handle this case successfully, we might get the business into the firm. Or Haggister might even like my work well enough to... I can't think about that.
You can't? You've got your hand on the French dressing again.
Maybe I better drink it black.
Ben, what is this case?
Well, I'm not supposed to discuss it.
Oh, all right.
But it's very interesting.
Oh, if you can't tell me, it's all right.
I suppose I could give you an outline.
Oh, Ben, I don't want you violating professional practice on my account.
Can't I just give you a hint?
Oh, no.
A little hint?
Ben, there is such a thing as the canon of ethics.
Oh, yes. Liz, this coffee's stone cold.
Darling, you're drinking the cream.
I hadn't exactly hidden anything from Liz about Jake Haggister. I'd just sort of accentuated the positives. The negatives turned up after dinner when the doorbell rang.
Yes?
Marriott?
Yes?
I'm Barney.
Oh?
You know Barney.
Who is it, Liz?
Barney.
Barney?
Yeah, Barney.
Anything I can do for you?
Well, I come for the, well, you know.
What are you talking about?
You want me to say it in front of the lady?
Go ahead.
I come for the briefs.
Oh, the briefs.
Excuse me.
You mean the legal papers for Mr. Haggister, don't you?
Paper? Oh, yeah, legal papers.
Come in. I'll have to get them together. You wait just a minute. I'll go get them in the other room.
Don't you hurry. I ain't going nowhere.
Would you like an ashtray?
No, that's all right, lady. The cigar ain't lit. I just like to chew it a while after dinner, you know.
Oh. Do you work for Mr. Haggister?
Oh, Mr. Haggister and me are like this. The thumb is Mr. Haggister.
I caught the resemblance.
Oh, sure. We're very close. Well, I seen him just tonight at the club.
You belong to the same club?
Sure, the 12th Ward Comanche Club. Jake... You don't mind if I call Mr. Haggister Jake, huh?
Oh, no. I think it's delightfully informal of you.
Yeah. It always pays to do Jake Haggister a favor. He's a very great man. He's a prince. He's a real prince.
You think well of him.
Oh, lady, you could look all over the West Side. You wouldn't find a prince like Jake Haggister. Why, if you're a friend of his, it's the red carpet. A hack license, bail bond, a rap squad. Well, all the things you'd want a friend to do for you.
It's a little thing.
Yeah, it's a little. Of course, I've done things for Jake. Like election days.
That's your busy time?
Oh, like a bee, like a little bee. Run around pole to pole. I remember once in 1928, I voted 58 times. I was exhausted.
Voting was that tiring?
What, do you think it's easy, bending over, copying names off all them gravestones? You know, a funny thing happened that year? I run across my old man's stone.
Did you vote for him?
Well, certainly not. I got too much respect.
Mr. Haggerson is in politics. Does he hold office?
Well, not since LaGuardia.
What seems to be his trouble now? I mean, this trial.
Which one, lady?
Oh, is there more than one?
Lady, Mr. Haggerson is in court so often, one of the bailiffs thought he was the judge.
This case that Mr. Marriott has handled.
Oh, that's nothing. Don't you believe a word of it.
Well, I haven't heard a word of it.
Oh, people are always jealous of a man like Mr. Haggerson. Well, the little people, you know. You can't believe what they say.
Well, what do they say?
Well, that story that he trucked out 5 loads of furniture from that building before the wreckers moved in, that isn't true.
It isn't?
Oh, no. Why, there wasn't more than one lousy truckload in the whole building.
Oh.
Yeah. And that rumor about the marble statue, what did they say he took it for his lawn? That's a lie.
Is it?
Oh, sure. He wouldn't have that statue. Why, he made him take it back. Now, I've seen it. Shocking. Lady, would you believe that statue was in its, birthday suit?
I'd love to see a marble statue in a birthday suit.
Civic Integrity, it was called. Can you imagine Civic Integrity, stark, mother naked, 14 foot tall?
It's a fascinating thought.
I got the papers here. They weren't in order. You'll take them right to Mr. Haggerson.
Oh, sure thing.
Tell him I've looked up the law. He was right about that statue.
You're telling me it's a disgrace, 14 foot without a stitch.
What was he talking about?
Civic integrity.
Liz looked at me rather strangely for the rest of the evening. And finally, just before bedtime, she came out with it.
Ben.
Yes?
This Jake Haggerson, did he?
Did he what?
Steal civic integrity.
Now, the contract didn't specify that he was not entitled to the salvage.
Ben, I'm not trying to debate how many lawyers can stand on the head of a pin. Was it a crooked deal or wasn't it?
Now, you're not being fair, Liz. You don't understand about the law. Everyone is entitled to counsel. The poorest, downtrodden pushcart peddler.
I gather Jake Haggerson isn't exactly a pushcart peddler.
No, but you can't discriminate against a man just because he happens to be a millionaire.
Ben, I may not know the law, but are you really going to defend a crooked grafter when you know he's guilty?
A man is innocent until he's proved guilty. He has the right to a fair trial, the full benefit of the law, and a good counsel.
Haggerson has plenty of lawyers. Why do you have to get mixed up with it?
Well, we handled a little something like this once before. Haggerson knows that we dug up a very telling case in point.
You mean a loophole?
Liz, you can't call a legal precedent a loophole.
But it's all right to call a loophole a legal precedent.
Will you look at the merits of the case? Haggerson is a millionaire. All of this stuff he's alleged to have appropriated doesn't amount to peanuts. Now, does that make sense to you?
It certainly doesn't. He should give it right back.
This isn't any more important to Jake Haggerson than sneaking into the subway.
Well, I've never sneaked into the subway.
Did you ever take an extra nickel you found in the coin slot of a paid telephone?
Well, I've never found one.
But you looked.
Well, that's not the point.
But it is the point. Now, look, Liz. The world just doesn't run on copybook morality. There's always been Jake Haggerson. That's the way the world is. You've got to accept it.
I don't see why.
Liz, this is business.
All right, all right. I wonder where we'll put it.
What?
Too big for the living room. Maybe the bathroom, in the tub.
What are you talking about?
Your fee. I just know Jake Haggerson will pay you off with a statue of civic integrity.
The next evening, Emily came home waving a newspaper clipping triumphantly.
Mom, look.
Hang up your coat, dear.
Daddy, did you see this? In the newspapers. Our name.
No, I didn't see it.
It's on the front page. Haggerson Corporation faces trial.
I read the article. I didn't see our name.
Well, you didn't continue to page 37. Here, listen. City officials claim looting was... Oh, no, wait. Oh, here it is. Ben C. Marriott of Connolly, Hotsburg, Marriott, and Burns appeared at the preliminary hearing for the Crosstown Corporation.
Let me see that. Yes, there it is.
Emily, hang up your coat, dear.
I showed it to all the kids in school.
Did you see this, Liz?
No, Emily, your coat.
I'll get it, Mom. Daddy, is this the first time your name was in the paper?
No. No, I came second in the junior broad jump in the city championships when I was in high school. But that was only a list. This is an article.
Think of all the thousands of people reading this article. Ben C. Marriott of Connolly, Hotsburg, Marriott, and Burns. Daddy, do you suppose something might come of this? You know, politics?
Well, you can't tell. Might.
Do you think you might have your name in the paper again?
Of course, Emily. He might win the senior broad jump. Now, please hang up your coat.
The case came up, mysteriously moved ahead on the court calendar. Liz stated she wanted to be there for part of the trial just to get my point of view. Unfortunately, she got there a little late and had to wait outside in the corridor.
Do you mind if I sit down?
Suit yourself. It's not my bench. Got a match?
I think so. You here?
Thanks. Waiting for somebody?
My husband. He's in there.
Oh.
His trial's over. They're just waiting for the verdict.
That's the worst time, isn't it, dear?
I suppose so.
You get used to it. My Albert is in here on this side.
Is he?
What's yours up for?
I beg your pardon?
You know, if I told Albert once, I told him 50 times, don't take a bet from a stranger. But would he listen? No. My Albert is obliging.
I don't think you understand.
Sure I do, honey. I've been through it before, twice.
Oh, but...
Don't worry. Chances are he won't get more than a year if it's a first offense.
But my husband hasn't done anything.
Sure, honey. You keep right on believing that. Makes it easier when he's up there.
But he isn't. I mean, that isn't it.
I know. Listen, the first time for Albert, I was always making up stories. He's away for a rest cure. He's traveling. He's on a rubber plantation in the Amazon jungle. Now I don't care. I tell him the truth. Let him do me something.
You think that's the best way?
Sure. Look on it as a vacation for both of you.
I never thought of it that way.
Honey, after he's up there, maybe you'd like to go out together with me? A double date? I could fix you up.
Oh, thanks, but I don't...
Well, to each his own.
If you'll excuse me, I'll find out how my husband is doing.
Take my advice. Have him plead guilty and throw himself on the mercy of the court.
I remember that. Bailiff.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mrs. Marriott.
Oh, are you Councilor Marriott's wife? The judge is handing down the verdict now.
Any idea what it'll be?
All I can tell you is downstairs in the press room, they're giving 7-4 on Haggister with no takers.
That's good.
Well, the Yankees are only 6-5.
Oh. How is Mr. Marriott doing?
Well, now, ma'am, I've seen all the great lawyers. Fallon, Sam Leibowitz, William Travers Jerome.
You mean you compare Ben with them?
Yes, ma'am, I do. He ain't as good.
Oh.
I mean, he's young and he'll learn. He is doing a very fine performance. I was on the inside yesterday, and he was cross-examining the building inspector. Boy, it was a pleasure to see him go at it. Jab, jab, jab. Great footwork.
Sounds spectacular.
Very flashy. At him all the time. Then, when he had him on the ropes, he let him have it. 1, 2.
A knockout?
Well, technical KO. He got him, but he hasn't quite developed the heavy knockout punch that Leibowitz had.
Ben was a middleweight in college.
Well, that might account for it. It's all over.
Who won?
They'll be coming out in a minute. Well, congratulations, Mr. Haggister.
You bet, Henry. Here.
Oh, thanks.
It's all clear Havana.
Thanks, Mr.
Ben,
Haggister.
Ben, where are you, boy?
Right here, Mr. Haggister.
Here, you take a cigar. Take a handful.
Thanks, I don't smoke them.
Well, carry 'em around. Dress up your coat pocket.
Hello, Ben.
Liz, Didn't you get inside?
No, but I had a blow-by-blow account.
Is this the missus? Ben, introduce me.
Oh, Liz, this is Mr. Haggerty.
How do you do, ma'am? Have a... I almost offered you a cigar.
Well, I might take it. Is it a good cigar?
Mrs. Marriott, I want you to know you've got a bright husband. Very brilliant.
Oh, I would have said cunning.
Yeah. He sure pulled my chestnuts out of the fire. Ben, I want you and Mrs. Marriott to have dinner with me tonight.
Oh, I don't know if we
Just
can
the
make
three of us at my place. 8 o'clock.
Well?
Won't take no for an answer. Oh, excuse me. Commissioner, if I can see you for a minute, I want to talk to you.
What do you mean, cunning?
Either that or shrewd. Very shrewd.
I was a little uncomfortable. I could just see Jake Haggerty through Liz's eyes. Big, a little paunchy, bald, red face, and big ham-like hands. The perfect picture of the traditional boss. We drove out to Oyster Bay on the parkway. Haggerty's place was a brick house set back on the tremendous lawn with a few giant elms. We parked the car and went up to the door.
Ben, I don't see it.
What?
Civic integrity.
Now, that was just a rumor. Well, might as well ring.
A buzzer.
What did you expect? Carolyn's playing Mother McCree? Jake opened the door, showed us in. We had drinks. He played recordings of Mozart quintets. I think it was Mozart. And he didn't comment on them. He just played them. Dinner was quite something.
Was that meat all right, Mrs. Marriott?
Oh, delicious. I don't think I've ever had it prepared this way.
It's in the cutting.
The cutting?
My father was a meat cutter in the wholesale butchers. I grew up in the business. I remember my father spending all day cutting filet mignon, and then coming home and we had East Side stew. That's potatoes and flour with maybe one soup bone. So now I get a kick out of getting a side of beef and cutting it myself.
Well, how interesting.
Mrs. Marriott, I could show you how to cut 20% of your meat bill just by knowing cuts of meat. That's funny, isn't it? I'm prouder of being a good meat cutter than of being alderman for 12 years, before LaGuardia threw me out of my ear. Ah, LaGuardia, a great man.
You think that? After he threw you out?
Liz.
Listen, Mrs. Marriott. LaGuardia left orders I was to be thrown out of his office if I came in. You've got to respect a man like that.
I suppose so.
I voted for him every time he ran. Rest his soul. Well, who's for more meat?
Jake was a good talker. He told stories of early days on the East Side, of Tammany politics, and the inside story of half a dozen reform administrations. After dinner, we had coffee in the parlor. Liz had her shoes off and her feet tucked up on the couch.
You know, I shouldn't tell you this. I wanted it to be a surprise, but I just can't wait.
What's that?
Ben, I'm really grateful for the job you did. It calls for something a little more than the fee.
Oh, no. Really,
So I figured I'd get a little something for you.
Now, Jake, please, don't.
Oh, it's too late. I had it delivered tonight while you're here. It's in front of your house.
In front?
I hope you won't mind. I want you to enjoy it. Ben told me you were having a little trouble with your car, so I got you a new one.
A new car?
It's only a 2-door sedan, that's all, really.
That's all?
Well, somebody said I should make it a convertible with wire wheels, and I told him Ben is a good family man. He needs a good family car. Drive it in good health.
But, Jake, this... I don't know what to say.
Forget it. Listen, I've got a port wine I want you to try. I'll be right back.
Liz?
Ben. Oh, it's exciting.
You want to take it?
Well, you did a good job, didn't you? You earned it.
I suppose so.
You said yourself a thing like this doesn't mean anything to him. And it makes him so happy. He's like a big kid.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I think it's very sweet of him. He's very disarming, isn't he? In a way, he's really delightful.
Well, here we are. Oh, you'll like this port. Ben, there's something else. You know, I have a pretty big business, a lot of contract work, damage suits, insurance claims. I need somebody to work for me exclusive. I like you and I trust you. We could make out a good business deal, arrange for offices in your name. You could probably clear easy $50,000.
Dan.
Well...
Of course, you don't have to give me an answer now. Talk it over with Connolly. Anybody else?
I think I can give you an answer now, Mr. Haggister.
Oh?
I was assigned to this case by the firm. I did the best I could. You weren't guilty, not within the letter of the law, but I couldn't commit myself on a retainer, Mr. Haggister.
Uh-huh.
You see, when I won this case, I'll tell you the truth, I didn't know whether to be proud or ashamed. I wouldn't feel like taking any other cases, not unless I judged each one individually as it came up. I won't do your business, Mr. Haggister, not as I understand it.
Uh-huh. Then I could give you individual cases. Straight, no wrinkles, no sharpshooting required. But I won't. I've been knocking around the city for a long time. I can recognize a man who has integrity. I can recognize it, but I can't afford it.
Liz?
Huh?
$50,000 is a lot of money.
Yes. Yes, it is.
You know, if you'd kept on the other side against Haggister, I might have taken it. Just to show you were wrong.
No, you wouldn't have.
You seem to change your mind about Jake Haggister.
He's a very pleasant man.
Sort of left me on my own. I couldn't fool myself by arguing with you. I had to face the decision.
You would have anyway.
I wonder.
I don't.
Here we are.
Oh, there's the new car. Isn't it shiny?
Yeah. Well, we have to give it back, of course.
Of course. Such a solid family car.
Maybe we shouldn't even tell the kids. They'd be heartbroken.
I'm not too happy myself. Oh, it's beautiful. Look. Look, isn't that sweet? A note from Jake on the windshield. What does it say, dear?
Darling, it isn't exactly a note from Jake. It's a summons made out to us for parking in front of a fire plug.
Ben and Liz Marriott will be back in just a moment. In the meantime, let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation and transcription of The Marriage, written by Ernest Kenoy. Larry Haynes was heard as Barney, Ed Latimer as the bailiff, Anne was played by Ann Thomas, and Ed Begley played the part of Jake Haggister. The Marriage is an NBC radio production directed by Edward King. This is Bob Denton speaking. Liz.
I've been thinking about that traffic ticket.
Yeah?
I could prove that I wasn't the bona fide owner. You see, under the motor vehicle law of 1937...
Dan.
Huh?
Pay the $10.
Oh. Uh-huh. Good night, Liz.
Good night, guys.
Hear Frederick March in NBC Star Playhouse tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin in The Marriage. The sponsors of this program offer no endorsement of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, with the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting by transcription one of the most distinguished couples in the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
The other day I saw a picture of a man in a magazine who was constructing a model of the Empire State Building out of bottle tops. And I wondered why any man would spend his time this way. Now, if it were a housewife, I'd understand. A housewife has certain hours of the day. Not many, but they do come up. When there's nothing to do but wait. I suppose you'd call early evening the waiting time. Like now, with dinner over and Pete and Emily in their rooms doing their homework, so you'd never guess how with the radio going. And me on the sofa thumbing through a magazine. Waiting. This time it's for Ben, who's tied up at the office, or some conference, or who knows, maybe building something with bottle tops himself. 1 minute, dear. Lose your key again? Oh.
I must see Mr. Marriott at once. May I come in?
Why, yes. My husband isn't home.
Oh, he's on his way.
Oh?
I phoned his office. Oh, you must excuse me, but he said to absolutely rush over here if anything came up.
Well, please sit down.
Oh, thank you. My plane leaves tomorrow morning for Rome, and now this awful complication. The minute I saw him tonight, I knew there'd be trouble. He was wearing his Homburg. That's his difficult hat.
Who, Ben? He doesn't wear a Homburg.
Oh, no, my husband. He's such an idiot. Though we are fond of each other despite all our little...
I guess that helps.
He's an absolute child. Maybe that's why I married him. He was so dependent on me. I couldn't do without him. If you know what I mean.
Yes, I think I do.
He's got his nerve acting this way with Anna waiting for me in Rome.
Anna?
Anna Magnani. I'm doing the costumes for her new movie.
Oh.
It's one of those marvelous Italian movies. You know, everyone's so terribly poor. It's like The Bicycle Thief, except she steals a Cadillac.
Well, that ought to be simple to hide.
Well... But I'm sure Mr. Marriott will clear this whole situation up for me.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've always found him charming, an absolute angel. I never did tell you my name. Forgive me. It's Lydia Otis.
How do you do? I'm Mrs. Marriott.
So it's sweet of you to be patient with this horrible calamity.
Oh, that's perfectly all right. We have emergency calls just like doctors. Ben even gets called in the middle of the night.
Really?
Accident cases, suicide in the family. Once a lady got bit by a dog and phoned.
Who won that case?
Oh, Ben wouldn't take it. He never prosecutes animals.
Never prosecutes. Well, you know, I just felt there'd be trouble with my husband before I left, and I tried so hard to make it easy for him. I introduced him to some charming women. Why, I found him a perfectly darling ballet dancer.
Your husband doesn't like ballet dancers?
Oh, dear. Didn't I tell you he's not my husband? We're practically divorced.
Oh, well, practically is better than none at all.
And what do you do, Mrs. Marriott?
Oh, nothing. Housewife.
Children, too. Well, that's not exactly doing nothing.
Yeah, I know what the books say. It's supposed to be a career, but I wonder. Now, take yourself.
Hello, Liz.
Hello.
This is Otis. How are you? I knew you were here. I checked back at the office.
He's acted up again. He doesn't like the settlement.
I thought he'd agree.
He was wearing his tweeds that day. When he's being British, he'll agree to anything.
If you'll excuse me...
Please, don't go. It'll be in the papers anyway. He'll say something stupid, as usual.
Now, just sit back. Would you like a drink?
Oh, I'm late already, but thank you so much.
Cigarette?
You're a darling.
There you are. Now, just relax. When's your plane leaving?
Tomorrow at 10.
You'll be on it. And I'll be there as your lawyer to put you on it. As for your husband... Liz, dear, would you light me a cigarette, please? As for your husband, or ex-husband very soon...
Here you are.
Thank you. I'll have a straight talk with him before you're out over Sandy Hook. And believe me, there'll be no more hitches to this divorce. Now, you feel better?
Yes. You're a dear.
I am. I mean, it'll be done.
Your cigarette went out, dear.
Huh? Oh, thank you.
Then I can leave without any worrying. Such a relief to have you take over.
I'll cable you in Rome.
Oh, I'll have to rush off now. I have 100 appointments all the way to midnight.
Can I get you a cab?
Oh, no, I'll be all right.
Oh, no, it's no trouble at all.
Mrs. Norris, arrivederci.
Oh, bon voyage.
Oh, I'm beat today. Ready to turn in. How's that book you're reading?
I'm not reading it.
Oh?
I've got it open, but I'm not reading it. I'm thinking of her.
Her who?
Lydia.
Lydia?
Lydia, Lydia Otis.
Ah, she does stay in your mind, doesn't she? Fascinating woman. Vibrant.
If she were any more vibrant, her earrings would ring like chimes. I thought you'd break your arm reaching for a cigarette for her. As usual, I lit my own.
Guilty as charged.
Now, that look in your eye.
Go on. I'm an interested spectator.
You're really taken by her. And why not? She's attractive, intelligent, and you wanted to please her.
I please all my clients.
This, my dear, was a non-client please. It was a he pleasing a she. I'm not jealous, no. I'm just clinical. When you walked in and saw her, you lit up like a pinball machine. Off to Rome we go. Dear Anna is waiting. Arrivederci. Your mouth was wide open.
I suppose my inlays were showing.
I'm joking. Well, I'm half joking anyway.
Liz, you have to admit she's living a full life for a woman. Busy with all those activities. You have to admire her for that.
Oh, you're so serious.
Well, I am serious.
I know you are. You're going to get up early and get down to the airport and put vibrant Lydia on the plane. You said so. I'd love to be there and watch you carry her up the ramp. I didn't get to sleep right away. Of course I was teasing Ben about it, but it was more than that. She was exciting and vibrant, and he did light up in her company. I remembered when he'd be pretty excited when he met me after work, long ago. And he'd listen to every word, and he'd light up for me. What happened? And wasn't it partly my fault? I started out as a wife and mother and wound up taken for granted, half vacuum cleaner and half pressure cooker. Well, I started to count my sheep again, and that ended my philosophy. The next morning, passing the supermarket, I couldn't help thinking of her in Rome, passing the Colosseum. I was starting to cross the street when my daydream was broken by the door. Look out!
Hey, kid, come back here. I want to talk to you. Hey, kid, come back.
That's a fine way to drive.
Huh?
You almost hit that boy.
Look, lady, are you his mother?
No, I'm not, but I have children of my
You're
own.
not his mother. Don't yell at me.
You weren't very careful, mister.
Look, lady, I'm a careful driver. You see the sticker on my windshield? Merit Driving Award.
You almost hit him, though. It could have been serious.
Look at this intersection, lady. Just look at that. Every time I get near this corner, I pray. It's laid out like a Parcheesi board. 5 streets crossing at the same time. How that 5th Street ever got there, I don't know.
There's no excuse for almost running over a child.
Not looking for an excuse, lady. I'm trying to explain. I am very unhappy about this street situation. I did not build the streets. I did not lay them out this way.
You be careful next time.
Yes, ma'am. Can I go now?
Anyway, they ought to have a play street there.
Still on that, dear?
I don't see how you can be so casual about it when the lives of children are at stake, perhaps your own children.
The traffic problem is in the hands of what we trust are competent men.
Politicians.
And engineers who've made a science out of traffic control. You know, you're worried about one little street. There are thousands of streets, tens of thousands.
That one single street intersection is all I know about, and it's dangerous. Something should be done. Ben, couldn't you do it?
Me?
Well, you're a lawyer.
Lawyers can't do everything.
If they can put their clients on a plane personally, they can just as easily get in touch with the police department and demand some action.
I'll overlook the first part of that sentence. As for the second part, it isn't that simple.
Don't you know anyone down there? Some contact.
Only the man who takes my money for the parking tickets. Look, Liz, something ought to be done, sure. I just want to be practical and point out some of your problems. Go right ahead, I say, except I don't think you'll get anywhere. That's my summation to the jury.
I fell asleep that night, but slept uneasily. I didn't know the boy who was scared by the car, but suddenly he had Peter's face. He was my boy on his way to school. He turned at the intersection to wave goodbye, and just then I heard a low, strange sound in my sleep coming closer, and then louder, and it turned into the sound of a truck brake, and I called out, "Look out!" Baby carriage.
What?
Baby carriage.
What, Liz?
Baby carriage.
Baby carriage? What? Liz, you didn't... I mean, are we?
What are you talking about?
Are we having another? Are we?
No, dear, we're not. Go back to sleep. The next morning, I met them on the street. The women I'd meet every day, but never really know. The women with baby carriages, shopping, sunning themselves before going back to their housework. I told them my idea. They were with me. Then I did one more thing. Hello? May I speak to the news editor? It's very important. Thank you.
Yes?
Hello? A news editor? I want to report something that's going to happen, but hasn't yet. And when it does, you might want to have a reporter there.
Who is this?
This is Mrs. Elizabeth Marriott, and I want to tip you off that something of unusual interest will take place in just 1 hour at the intersection of 6th Avenue and 10th Street.
Nobody on a window ledge, is it? We're getting too many of those calls.
Oh, no, this is much more exciting.
Axe murder?
Oh, no, this has spectacle, my dear man. Will you send a reporter down, or shall I try another newspaper?
6th Avenue and 10th Street. Okay, we'll take a chance.
Liz, where are you? Are you home? Hey, look at this.
Stop waving that newspaper around. I've seen it.
You've seen it? Middle page, your picture.
I know. I arranged it.
You arranged it?
Uh-huh. And stop repeating my words as though you're struggling back to consciousness.
Baby carriage brigade. Mothers protest traffic dangers. At noon today, some 20 to 30 mothers, formidably armed with baby carriages, successfully held up traffic at the intersection of 10th Street and 6th Avenue for 15 minutes. Did you really?
Uh-huh.
That's marvelous. For 15 minutes. And presented a petition to a police car for the installation of a traffic light.
I borrowed the baby carriage. It was the photographer's idea.
And the baby?
That wasn't a baby, dear. It was a head of lettuce.
Baby carriage. That's a wonderful... How'd you ever get it?
Oh, you seem to forget that I once earned a living for both of us with my ideas.
Hello? Yes, this is the Marriott residence. Who? Just a moment. For you, dear, the traffic commissioner.
Thank you. Hello? Yes, this is Mrs. Marriott speaking. Ben, would you light me a cigarette, dear? Oh, hello, Mrs. Marriott. I'm Mrs. Sanders. Oh, come in. Well, won't you sit down?
Thank you. I won't stay but a moment. I'm from the section across the park. You don't know me, but we've certainly heard of you. Now, I'm with the parent teachers, and we've been wondering if we could get you over to our next meeting.
Oh, well,
We think you could help us get started on several projects. All we need is an example. Would you come?
Why, I don't know if I I suppose I can. Well, yes, why can't I? I guess it just kept snowballing, as they say. I became known as the traffic light girl, the baby carriage bombshell, and other nicknames. It was kind of exciting.
right. We're almost set. You stand over here, Mrs. Merritt. Just be natural. Be yourself. Just want a half minute of home life to cut into newsreel footage of the latest baby carriage brigade. 6 so far, huh? Not bad. All right, boys, on the camera. Excuse me, Sonny.
I'm not Sonny. I'm Mr. Marriott.
Yeah, how do you do? Say, would you plug this wire into that socket?
Huh?
Fine. Oh, Mr. Marriott, would you mind moving this table out of the room?
Well, it's kind of heavy.
Sure, you can do it. Watch it! Okay, skip it.
Mrs. Marriott?
Yes, if you're a salesman...
No, if you please. I'm not a salesman. Do I look like a salesman?
Well, it's hard to tell.
I happen to be against all types of door-to-door salesmanship, but I am in favor of national advertising. May I come in?
Oh, sit down. If it's anything to do with my husband...
No, it's you we're interested in. My card. Theodore Willis of Adams Booking, Incorporated.
You're not a theater agency.
Heavens, no. I dislike the theater intensely. We're a lecture bureau. Our job is to supply various civic, fraternal, and patriotic organizations with speakers for occasions large or small, whatever the subject, from fall of Rome to tension is temporary.
I don't understand why...
Normally, we deal with well-known authorities in their field, though you'd never know who is an authority on what these days. Who'd ever think you were an authority on traffic safety?
But I'm not...
In the public mind, you are. We deal with the public mind.
Well, I'm not a lecturer.
That is exactly our trump card. Let me tell you something, Mrs. Marriott. The age of celebrities is running out. What happened to the flagpole sitters? Stirred up a nation, and now goldfish swallowers. Remember them?
Oh, yes. Why, I knew a boy...
Gone. Nobody remembers them. Movie stars replaced by 3D. Animal pictures coming back. The celebrity of today is built on feet of clay. Why?
Why?
No human element.
Oh.
Without the human element, there's nothing. We have, I dare say, been going on nothing for years. Humanity is the key.
But I don't quite...
Not the best-dressed woman, or the Minister Luxembourg, or the most married or divorced woman, but the common woman. How does that strike you?
Well, I'll think about it.
It's surefire.
What will I lecture about?
Women's problems. Women always have problems. I'll return in a day or two, and we'll discuss further details. Meanwhile, you can see how Mr. Marriott feels about it.
Oh, you needn't worry about my husband. You see, he enjoys my doing this sort of thing. You might say he got me started. Well, in a way, he did.
What's this? Dear Ben, afternoon conference on international child care in backward areas, followed by dinner. Would you remind Emily to bring evening dress to Hotel Collingwood, 9th floor. P.S. Dress in closet. Love.
I'm sorry. Mrs. Marriott is occupied right now. You can't go in there.
Yes, but she wants to see me.
No interviews until after the dinner. There'll be a press party then.
I am not a reporter.
Oh, you're not?
I simply have this parcel to bring her. Now, if you'll please
Give
ask...
it to me. I'll take it in to her. Here's a little something for yourself.
Look, madam,
I said I'll
haven't...
take it. Messenger boys aren't supposed...
I'm not a boy. I'm Mr. Marriott. Mr. Marriott married Mrs. Marriott 17 years ago. Now, may I see my wife? Or do I have to come back with a license?
I'll find out if she's available.
Available? Now, listen, my dear woman. There she is. I see her. She's right inside the door.
No, I don't think so,
Liz?
gentlemen. I couldn't go to Copenhagen. That's
Liz?
absolutely out of the question. I have a family. It's quite impossible at the moment.
Listen, that's her. Liz, it's me.
Have you any identification?
Yes, I have a tattoo on my chest. A naked woman. Here, I'll show you.
Oh!
Sam, how nice of you to come. Well, what's the matter, dear? You look pale.
Now, Liz, I want to tell you... How's it going?
Well, fine. Why didn't Emily bring the dress?
She had some work after school. Besides, I wanted to come. Just to see what you're mixed up in. And anyway, why the afternoon and the evening? Isn't one enough?
Oh, but dear, it's the same event. The evening dinner is the culmination of the afternoon.
When are you coming home for the final culmination?
Later. I'll make out all right.
Want me to pick you up?
No, I'll get a ride. Will you make out for dinner?
Dinner? Oh, sure, dinner. Let's do that sometime, shall we? P.S. I'm in the phone book.
Then it happened. I suppose I half expected it all along, but it was surprising just the same. I don't remember how long it was since I found someone waiting up for me late at night, grimly seated in a chair facing the door.
Stop. Stay where you are.
Ben, you frightened me.
12:45 a.m. It's tomorrow. Do you realize that? How old are you? You're too old to be sneaking in this way.
I'm not sneaking in.
All right, walking in. You're not 16, and it's 12:45 and 1/2. Now, Miss Goldilocks, I've drawn up a little brief for you. Let's see. 5th of the month, lecture. 10th, lecture. 13th, Rodale. 15th, Bronx Protective Mothers League. 18th, lecture, address unknown. 22nd, helicopter flight from Flushing Airport. Don't ask me why. 25th, Brooklyn Society for Reforestation. Thought they had a tree. 30th, that's tonight. That makes 2, 3, 5, 6, 8 sorties a month. All very well, but enough is enough. Look at this house.
I'm sorry. I guess I have neglected
The laundry has forgotten to starch my shirt collars.
I'll remember to speak to them.
No heat in the radiators.
I do not put heat in the radiators.
Things are just falling apart. And your family. You never thought of that, did you? You never considered for one moment the psychological damage inflicted on your 2 children by your neglect.
They love it this way.
They need you.
Next charge.
Well, you must know I need you. Stop that.
Don't you like your wife to be vibrant and fascinating?
Sure, in my own house, but not all over town. What am I shouting about?
I don't know, Ben.
I just missed you terribly all evening.
Did you?
Missed you all month.
I'm sorry, dear.
I want you to stay home. Please come to bed at once.
Ben, dear.
Oh, are we agreed?
On what? We haven't discussed anything yet. Well, let's talk about it tomorrow, shall we?
I'm sorry I yelled at you. After all, you have a right to do what you want, but I have a right to yell.
I know, Ben. Something's happened. I took a look into myself and shook something that's been asleep for a long time. Everything that's happened, I made happen. I realized I've been living like an iceberg, 9/10 underwater. I decided to come up on the surface a little more. It's the way people ought to live, being involved, being interested, rediscovering their capabilities.
Yes, but with moderation.
I agree.
Then what are we arguing about? Mrs. Marriott, if you can find time for it on your schedule, why don't you come over here and I'll kiss you?
Ben and Liz Marriott will be back in just a moment. In the meantime, let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation and transcription of The Marriage, written by Ernest Kenoy. Lydia Otis was played by Fran Carlin. Others in the cast were William Zuckert, Edith Gresham, Reginald DeKoven, Abby Lewis, and Ted Osborne. The Marriage is an NBC radio production directed by Edward King. This is Bob Denton speaking.
Ben, are you awake?
Yes.
Did you see in the paper about the terrible air pollution in the city? Do you realize...
Now, wait a minute, Liz. Before we unpollute the air, let's come to terms. 3 days a week.
Do you need 3, really?
At home. That includes the evenings.
Definitely includes evenings.
Well, good night.
Good night.
Enjoy NBC Star Playhouse tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin in The Marriage. The sponsors of this program offer no endorsement of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, with the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting by transcription one of the most distinguished couples in the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
Even the most discreet of family men are guilty of tossing out an occasional boomerang, a boomerang known technically as the unwise statement. On the morning after the night before, a man says to his wife, never again, so help me. An unwise statement. And here's another. If you ever get to New York, be sure to look me up. Well, it was statement number 2 that came winging back to hit us the other night. Emily and Pete were in bed. Liz was writing some letters, and I was putting a new plug on a light cord.
It always makes me nervous to watch someone fiddle around with electricity. Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Perfectly. Where did those pliers go?
You're sitting on them.
Huh?
No, under your left side.
Oh. I think I'll simplify the wiring in this room.
What's the matter with it?
Too many long cords twisted all over the place. Wonder why I have so many little bolts.
Maybe you should just simplify the toolbox. Ben,
Yeah?
I think we've got a slight problem we have to consider.
What?
A telegram that came today.
Where? Where is it? Who's it from?
My dear open-hearted husband. It's from that first citizen of Elkhart, Kansas, our beloved but slightly overwhelming benefactor, Mr. Frederick Hertzell.
Fred Hertzell? After all this time?
Fred Hertzell, after all this time.
This is known as an echo conversation.
He's going to make his first visit to New York unforgettable for all 3 of us.
Let me see that. Hardware booming, but time called to show you grand kids that Elkhart knows how roar. Signed,
Yowie, old Fred.
What are we going to do?
See him, of course.
For 4 whole days?
Ben, he was wonderful to us.
I know. Any Kansan might give you a lift when your car breaks down, but who else would put a stranger up at his house for 3 days when it turns out that the motor has to be practically reincarnated?
He may be a little shocked to see how us grand kids have changed since 1937. Oh, well, I guess the best way to show our gratitude is to let him be nice to us again.
Pop! Hey, Pop!
Careful, Pete. Clear all wires.
Pop, why did some people get mad when President Roosevelt changed the time of Thanksgiving?
I thought you were asleep.
In school, Miss Whitaker said some people got mad. Why?
Well, Pete, it's just that Thanksgiving's something that people like to keep the same way it's always been.
The way I'd like to keep the wiring in this room.
Oh. Hey, Pop.
Go to bed, Pete. It's late.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, dear.
Good night.
But, Pop, you've got the radio plugged into the wire that's plugged into the lamp at the other end.
Liz, what's the matter with us? We won't be able to see Fred Hertzell a week from Thursday.
Why not?
A week from Thursday's Thanksgiving.
Then, holiday or no holiday, we can't just ignore him.
Unless we happen not to be here.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. His feelings couldn't be hurt if we'd made plans not to be here.
Where could we be?
In the country. Why not? We bought that place. Why not go out there and have a real old-fashioned Thanksgiving weekend? Kids haven't even seen the house. This is a perfect time for it.
You mean go and eat Thanksgiving dinner out there?
Sure.
And sleep there for 3 whole cold Connecticut nights? Ben, the place is a mess, and you know it.
Well,
the Pilgrims, after all, were used to the rugged life. We are not.
Well, it's high time the kids had a taste of it. I'm surprised I didn't think of it before. What's Thanksgiving in New York anyway? Traffic, noise, dirt, a frozen turkey from the supermarket, canned cranberry sauce. Did the Pilgrims have canned cranberry sauce?
Don't rationalize, dear. All you've come up with is a bad dodge for avoiding Fred Hertzell.
Well, if it was any other time, I'd face it gladly. Catch the morning show at the Roxy, visit the Flea Circus on 42nd Street.
Ben, listen to me. I like the idea of a weekend in the country. I really do. But our place just isn't ready to be lived in. I'd be a nervous wreck, and so would you.
I tell you, we'll go out this Sunday, just to try it out. If the four of us can't get that house bearable in a day, we're not worth much.
Do you really think Pete and Emily would be much help?
They've got to learn to work with their hands. I was a city kid, too. Don't forget that.
I know.
Uh-huh.
Dan, it seems darker in here.
It does, doesn't it? Let's see. Where does this wire go?
Dan, it's all very well to get dewy-eyed about the Pilgrim Fathers, but...
Let's try it.
And just forget about Fred Hertzell?
Well, we'll be back for Sunday night. We could see him then.
So we could. Dan, I think you...
Yes, I know. I've blown a fuse. Go ahead. I'm waiting for the laugh.
Don't be silly, darling. Did the Pilgrim Fathers have electric lights?
At first, Emily and Pete were a little disconcerted by the notion of bringing civilization to the wilderness. But since it was our own wilderness, newly acquired a couple of weeks before, they finally agreed to the experiment. The drive out to Connecticut early Sunday morning was a joy. And the arrival at our ancient, charming, unpaid-for place was ecstatic.
Hey, this is terrific. Look at those Keno woods.
Those what woods?
Keno. It's his word for the week.
Mom, next summer can we have a house party? Everybody could sleep on the porch.
Pop, didn't you say there was a lake or something?
Silly, it's only a pond. Where is it, Daddy?
Over there.
Hey, Em, let's explore.
Sure.
Come on. The super chief of the Comanche.
Hey, you kids, come on back here. Enter the house. There's work to be done. They were gone. I followed Liz into the kitchen with my tool chest and a can of kerosene to see if I could get the old oil stove working. I couldn't. Emily showed up a few minutes later and began poking around with a broom in a desultory fashion. I went on the warpath looking for Pete, the vanishing American. I felt as if we belonged to rival tribes. What happened was that he found me in a thicket.
Pop, what are you doing? You caught or something?
Never mind. Now, look, you go right back to the house. Do you remember what I said? Everybody has to help.
Sure, Pop. Like I said, I want to help.
Come on, then.
You know, this place is Keno.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want me to do, chop down a tree?
We'll work up to that gradually. Just start by pulling those vines loose. They keep the back door from opening.
Okay, you bet. Sure thing.
Pete!
Hey, Pop! Look where I am! Only I can't get down!
I told you to pull the vine loose, not use it for a ladder.
It happened like that, so I climbed up here to look around. It's Keno!
I got Pete off the roof and put him to work indoors. The attic had a couple of loose floorboards. I handed him a hammer and some long nails and went downstairs to help Liz out with a big, beautiful brass bed.
They're in as far as they'll go.
Good boy. I'll come up and check. What do you mean they're in? Those boards are as loose as they were before.
I meant the nails. They won't go in any farther.
The two loose boards looked like a pair of disheveled porcupines, prickly with nails at every conceivable angle, nails that fell out when I brushed them with my hand. The tough old wood had been too much for Pete's way with a hammer. He even put up a fight against my own technique, but I made it.
Everything all right? Down here we were sort of showered.
With chipped paint.
Where's Pete?
Daddy, I think I'm going to sleep on this old mattress. It's not so very moldy.
Where's Pete?
He went to collect firewood.
Does he think he can just pick up firewood, like driftwood on the beach?
He took the hatchet.
Oh, well, that's just Keno. After the hammer episode, I feared for the wood chopping exploits of my assistant handyman. I needn't have worried. When I finally found him, after searching for a good part of what was left of the precious afternoon, he was asleep. Asleep under a bush with a handful of sticks cuddled up against his chest. I kicked him. Gently, of course.
Oh. Hi, Pop.
Hi.
Gee, it's kind of cold. I fell asleep.
Woodsman, I see that I didn't have to warn you to spare that tree.
But these will be all right for kindling, won't they?
Peter?
What?
Where's the hatchet?
The hatchet?
The hatchet. We can run through that a couple of times more if you like. The hatchet, the hatchet, the hatchet, the hatchet.
Well, it was like this. I was exploring, sort of, over that way, and I heard something dripping. Now, in the movie, The Last of the Comanches, when they were all dying of thirst, the Indian boy put his ear to the ground till he found a well.
Mm-hmm.
So I started moving my head along the ground. I came to a space where there are a lot of boards on the ground, and the dripping got louder. I pushed one of the boards and...
Go on.
Well, the hatchet sort of slipped through the hole, and I heard a splash. I looked down, but I couldn't see anything.
That did it. We packed up the equipment that was left and went back to the city. Even I was convinced that the old plantation was nowhere near ready to harbor 4 Marriotts for a whole weekend. Liz was very nice about the whole thing. She didn't needle me. She didn't bring the subject up till just before we went to sleep.
Ben, dear.
Yes?
We could still go, you know.
Go where?
To our house, just for the day.
No.
In spite of everything, the kids are crazy about it. It's going to be a wonderful place.
Maybe. By 1960.
Oh, we could cook here and take the food along.
It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care if we eat a progressive dinner at the Automat.
Ben, what's the matter? What's really eating you?
Our kids. Our children, Emily and Peter, they're spoiled, soft. Especially Pete.
He is? Why should he be able to cope with the country? It's not his environment.
Well, now, there are plenty of things he could have done.
Wouldn't you have been excited? Wouldn't you have gone cavorting all over the landscape if you'd never seen the place before?
Well, maybe. But I wouldn't have dropped a hatchet down the well. Thanksgiving Day arrived and was distinctly spiritless in the Marriott household. Liz knocked herself out on the turkey and fixings, but right after dinner, Emily went to her football game and Pete went to his movie. It was entitled Sioux Uprising. I went for a walk in the trackless wilds of Greenwich Village, and Liz took a nap. In the evening, we reconvened, but no one volunteered to share his experiences of the day. After a while, Pete went to bed.
Answer, will you, Emily?
Yes, Mother.
You kidding? Every time it rings, she's there with the speed of light.
Hello? Yes, it is. No, I'm not. I'm her daughter. Uncle who? I think you better talk to Daddy.
Liz?
No, I'm 15, but... Well, I don't know.
Who is it, dear?
He says I should call him Uncle Fred. He's at LaGuardia Airport.
Fred Hertzell. I'd forgotten all about him. I'll take it, Em.
Here.
Fred! How are you, fella?
Fella.
What? Tonight. Well, Fred, it's pretty late. Be after 11 by the time you got here. What? Of course I know how to roar. Here, Liz, take it over, will you?
Shall I roar? Fred! Fred, it's wonderful to hear from you. Oh, we couldn't tonight. I'm dead. But Ben's off all day tomorrow. Oh, we'd love it, of course.
I wasn't going to take tomorrow off. I was going to...
That's right, the whole weekend. No special ideas. Oh, you do? Well, we've seen quite a bit, really, but... Oh, of course, Fred. We'll be ready. See you tomorrow, then. Good night.
He isn't a real uncle, is he, Daddy?
No, Emily. Bogus. He's a very nice hardware man who was kind to your mother and me in Kansas in 1937.
It sounds kind of spooky.
Don't try to understand, dear. Let's all go to bed. Your father and I have to be in a sort of a track meet tomorrow.
I don't get it, but, well, good luck. Good night.
Good night, Em.
Good night, Em. Well, what's on the Hertzell program?
Everything. Fred says he's always heard New Yorkers are the last ones to see the sights of their own city.
Huh.
He's going to make us kids exceptions by taking us on the grand tour.
Doesn't he know the kids with kids are exceptions already? We've been everywhere.
Obviously not.
Why didn't you tell him?
Ben, how could we? He's so happy to be here.
Does he know where to take us?
Well, if not, he'll find out.
I have a question for you, Liz. Who's buried in Grant's tomb? On Friday morning, old Fred hit the doorstep. He hardly gave us a chance to say hello.
Man, oh man, do I love you both.
Well,
don't
Fred,
start yapping now. We'll catch up on the way. You kids are really going to see your own city. Say, have you heard about the stove salesman who lost his nerve when the heat was on?
Colorful Oriental Chinatown.
That's Hong Chi's, you remember?
Oh, yeah.
The restaurant where Pete got so sick on that colorful Oriental apple pie.
Ah, this is real interesting. Say, have you heard the one about the refrigerator man who wondered why he always got a chilly reception?
But did they have to make the Statue of Liberty so tall? Ben, I couldn't even make these steps 10 years ago.
Hang on to me, dear. Out of loyalty to Elkhart, Kansas.
Sorry they don't let you up into the torch anymore. Boy, is this great for the old leg muscles. So I wanted you to see one place nobody would get to see, even a New Yorker who had the time. There's a friend of mine. He helped me with some tough litigation on a defective storm window case. Told me about this Hall of Records. It's got property deeds dating from 1653.
But Fred, Ben's a lawyer, too.
Naturally, this is a mighty useful place to know about.
Are we going anywhere else, Fred?
You bet your life. Which reminds me, you kids ever listen to Groucho Marx?
We certainly do.
Oh, I love that gag of his. You know the one I mean. Tell me, who's buried in Grant's tomb?
Agonizing day ran out at last, and we had a respite. A respite during which we had to spruce up for the evening agenda. Dinner at a place where we'd once been clipped, a so-called comedy we'd suffered through last winter, the whole to be topped off with a gay fling at the Latin Casino. We were dressing gamely.
I feel as if today were a milestone, like my 70th birthday.
A client of mine saw me on that parachute jump.
I wonder what he was doing there.
Maybe he was being nice to a man who'd once been nice to him in Kansas. Well, that does it.
What?
Shoelace.
Go barefoot.
Liz?
I haven't the strength to answer any more questions, then.
I'll make it a statement, then. Numbness may save us tonight, but what about tomorrow?
No fair. That's a question.
Fred said that tomorrow we were going to...
I know.
Can I come in now?
Yes, you may.
Where are you going?
Everywhere, dear.
With this guy?
Yes, Pete.
Who is this guy, anyway?
He's a man of high purpose, Pete. Your mother and I are trailer vessels.
Oh. Why didn't we go to the country for the weekend? Like we were going to. You never told me why.
I almost don't remember.
Well, there was just too much to be done to get the place ready, Pete.
I could have helped.
Huh?
Hey, Em says you went to Coney Island today. Lucky duckers.
Yeah, it was Keno.
Em says I messed up the whole weekend.
You helped, Hatchet Man. You helped.
Don't, Ben.
I get it.
That must be Fred, ahead of the dot. Are you all set?
Never, 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 never. Promptness is a vice. Gratitude is an overrated virtue. Kindness is doom. We go and it is done. The bell invites us. Hear it not, Marriott's. It is a knell that summons us to pleasure or to hell. About the details of the evening, let's just say that it ended at last, somewhat to my surprise. Ended with Fred's promise to be at our door bright and early the next morning. Liz and I slept right through the alarm. First thing I heard the next morning was voices filtering through the fuzziness.
I guess they're tired. Mom usually wakes up the first time you shout.
Never mind, Pete, my lad. Let them sleep. I don't mind sitting. They make hard cement in your town.
How do you like Coney Island?
Fine. Fine. I like it fine.
Me too. Pop doesn't like it much.
He doesn't?
No. He used to, but...
But what?
Well, I guess he's getting older, and he likes to be quiet.
Oh. Too bad he didn't tell me. Too bad I didn't take you.
Yeah. He likes Chinatown all right, though. Where else did you go yesterday?
Well, Statue of Liberty.
Again?
Uh-huh. Fulton Fish Market.
Pop likes to eat fish, but he hates the smell of it. You know something? We weren't supposed to be here at all this weekend.
Where were you supposed to be?
Well, we've got a Keno new old house in Connecticut, in the country. We were supposed to get it all fixed up Sunday, so we could spend the weekend there.
Then how come you didn't go? On account of your Uncle Fred?
I don't know. Maybe. Only it's still kind of a mess out there. I sort of let Pop down. I dropped the hatchet down the well.
Why did you do that?
Pop says I'm not very good with tools. Are you? Hammers and axes and things like that?
Am I good with them, Pete? I live by them. I sell them. Hertzell Wholesale has the best line of tools in the country.
Yeah? Too bad you didn't come out to the country instead of staying here and running Mom and Pop ragged.
Good morning, Peter. I'll see you later.
I was just telling Uncle Fred about...
Yes, I heard. Will you go and get dressed, please? Now, look, Fred. About that foolish stuff that Pete was dishing out, just nonsense. Liz and I have been delighted
No, you haven't. You've been run ragged. And you know something? So is old Fred. I was ready to call it quits after the first night.
What?
But I didn't want to disappoint you kids.
Why? We thought that you were...
We'd all gone right on beating our brains out if it wasn't for that Pete. The one honest, straight-headed character in the crowd. Brother, I can't take the pace in this city. Why didn't you kids tell me you got a nice, quiet house in the country? When do we start?
Ben and Liz Marriott will be back in just a moment. In the meantime, let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Doom Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation and transcription of the marriage. Written this week by John McGifford, with Denise Alexander as Emily and David Pfeffer as Pete. Fred Hertzell was played by Wendell Holmes. The Marriage is an NBC Radio Network production directed by Edward King. This is Bob Denton speaking.
Tired, Liz?
Exhausted.
Today was something like Thanksgiving, wasn't it?
Wonderful.
You know, Peter certainly knows how to handle people.
Better than we do. At least friendly Kansans. I guess you'll learn to handle things, too, after a while.
What are you talking about?
Oh, Fred told me. Pete dropped the rake in the pond.
Now, what was he doing, for heaven's sake?
Trying to catch fish.
Oh. Good night.
Good night, darling.
Enjoy NBC Star Playhouse tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin in The Marriage. The sponsors of this program offer no endorsement of
of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, with the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting by transcription one of the most distinguished couples in the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
Making a moral decision is something like riding a bicycle. You may not do it for years, but once you learn, you never forget. Of course, when you first start, you'll wobble from side to side, probably fall a few times, and it's often pretty painful. Somebody else can hold the bicycle and run along beside you, but you've got to learn how to balance for yourself. This thought just didn't come to me. I've been working it out for weeks. When I get it polished, I'll spring it on Liz as extemporaneous wit, and I won't fool her a bit. The reason it came up was Emily. It started a few weeks ago after dinner.
Emily, aren't you going to start your homework?
I have to finish this first, Mom.
What are you doing, dear?
I'm knitting.
Knitting what?
Argyle socks.
Oh, that's nice.
I made a little mistake. I turned the heel twice.
You did? Let me see them. Emily, won't these be a little big for you?
Oh, well, they're not for me. They're for a boy.
What boy?
I don't know.
Any boy with 2 heels on each foot.
Could you straighten them out, Mommy? I've got to finish them by tomorrow morning.
Oh, this will take hours, Emily.
I know, but I've just got to finish. Or I get scragged.
Scragged?
Well, you know, scragged.
Sounds painful.
It is. They use ping-pong paddles.
Well, naturally. What else would you use for scragging?
Emily, you've got the yarn tied in knots.
What is this, Emily? Who are the socks for?
Margie Pastor's boyfriend.
Well, then, why doesn't Margie Pastor knit them?
Because I'm her varlet.
Oh. Oh. Emily, what is a varlet?
Well, we all are. Ellie Meyer and James.
Shouldn't these red lines be crossing at right angles, dear? Give me the instructions.
Here, Mom. Golly, it's worse than geometry.
Emily, what does a varlet do?
Well, everything. Shine shoes, do homework, give home permanence, sew hems.
Let me put it this way. Why?
Oh, if you don't, you get scragged.
With ping-pong paddles?
That's right.
Emily, is there some higher goal to this, or is it just mortification of the flesh?
Oh, no. It's Omega Chi.
Omega Chi?
A sorority.
I thought they were illegal in high school.
Well, they are. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so much fun.
You've joined?
Oh, no, I'm pledged. You have to be a varlet for 2 weeks before you're initiated.
Why do you want to be in this sorority, dear?
Oh, well, only the most important girls are asked, and Ellie is, and she's my best friend, and they give a leap year dance at a big hotel, and you ask a boy, and if you're not a member, you can't go, and somebody else can ask the boy.
Uh-huh.
You see?
I think so. Is there some member who has designs on your choice?
Yes, Margie.
Uh-huh.
That's why I've got to be so careful. If I don't do everything just right, she'll thumb me down.
What do they use for that? Baseball bats?
Oh, no, that means you're thrown out. How are the socks coming, Mom?
I think I turned the heel again.
If I don't finish the socks, how am I ever going to start on the skirt?
What skirt?
Margie's skirt. I've got to hem it. And it's circular. 4 yards around.
Now, wait a minute, Emily. You've got French, math, and biology homework. You've got to do that.
But I'll be scragged.
There are some things which are more important. Now, you go and do your homework right now. Staying up all night sewing somebody else's skirt is ridiculous. What time is it, Liz?
2:45. How are you coming?
Halfway around the skirt. Ow.
Why don't you use a thimble?
Gets in the way. How are the socks?
Sort of like Argyle feed bags. When I'm through, I'll wash them in hot water and dry them in the oven. That'll get them down to size.
I never saw a skirt this big. Margie will look like the center pole in a circus tent.
Emily, finish her homework?
At midnight. Do you realize that the kid would have had to stay up all night?
I suppose we should have let her.
Maybe. I just don't like the idea of her being paddled. Matter of fact, I don't like the whole idea of Omega Chi.
Neither do I.
Liz, I got about 4 inches left over here. What do I do?
Oh, sneak it in little tucks. You know, Ben, I think the sorority violates the school regulations.
Not to mention the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. If this isn't involuntary servitude, I don't know what is. My left thumb is a bloody mess.
Well, here are the socks finished.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Ben, I hope Emily doesn't know any boy these might fit.
Pledge week for Omega Chi ran on and on. Emily seemed to spend most of her time running errands and collecting unusual items. Once I found her making 12 copies of her algebra homework, so I confiscated them. A few days later, a boy, Bobby Logan, called up and left a message with me that he was coming over to talk to her. Emily paled.
Daddy, that's awful. Tell him I'm not home.
I thought you liked him.
Well, I do, but I can't talk to him.
This isn't more Omega Chi.
It's the vow.
The vow?
You're not allowed to talk to any boys in Pledge Week. You can't even tell them why. Daddy, there he is.
This ought to be an interesting interview.
Oh, I do.
You could draw pictures or act out charades. You know, first word, second syllable.
Oh, Daddy, answer the door.
Maybe you could play double solitaire. Hey, Bobby.
Huh?
Where are you going? Over here.
Oh, hello, Mr. Marriott. I thought nobody was home.
You're almost right. Come on in.
I came to see Emily.
That's what you said on the phone.
Oh, I did, didn't I?
Come on in. Sit down.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to.
Tired?
No, blisters.
Too much basketball?
No, somebody gave me some hand-knit Argyle socks.
Don't they fit?
Oh, they fit.
Well, that's good.
They're a little lumpy.
Emily, here's Bobby.
Oh, hello, Emily.
Well, kids, I got some work in the other room.
Daddy, you've got to stay. The vow.
Well, is it all right with you, Bobby?
Oh, yes. Emily, would you mind if I took off my shoes?
Daddy, tell him of course not.
Of course not.
And my socks?
It's all right, Bobby. Go ahead. Undress. Lumpy Argyle.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that could happen to any of us.
Emily, are you mad at me or something? You wouldn't even talk to me in the hallway where we used to... Mr. Marriott, if you've got work to do, I could come back later.
Oh, no. I'm afraid I'm indispensable.
Oh.
Daddy, don't you think a person ought to wait before making a big decision? I mean, before accepting an important invitation?
Play it on the first bounce, Bobby. Doesn't mean a thing to me.
Well, she was talking to you.
Only pro forma.
Oh, I don't take Latin.
I mean, Daddy, just because someone might have a very good reason for not talking to someone, well, that someone shouldn't necessarily think the other person doesn't want to talk to them.
Bobby, would you like me to take notes and prepare you a rough draft?
Well, maybe you'd better, Mr. Marriott. Emily, I just came over to say, look, I don't want to keep your father from his work. Maybe I'd better take my shoes and go.
Now, look, this is ridiculous. Emily, for heaven's sakes, talk to the boy.
Daddy, I just can't.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Marriott. It was a pleasure talking to someone.
Goodbye, Bobby.
Goodbye, Emily. I hope you're not mad at me.
Oh, Bobby.
Yes?
Here. You left a sock. Evidently, the nadir of Pledge Week was a pajama party at which the final separation of sheep from goats occurred. To our horror, Emily informed us that we were to be honored by the choice of our house for that occasion. Liz and I sat exiled in the kitchen as the members of the inner circle of Omega Chi arrived with overnight bags.
There's another one.
Open the door a crack. This one has ping-pong paddles.
The children won't actually hurt each other, will they?
I hope not. I don't want the neighbors to hear screams.
Oh, I'll just explain to them that you were at the vanilla extract again.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Hello, Mrs. Marriott. Mr. Marriott.
Hi.
Hello, Ellie. Oh, what lovely pajamas.
You think it's all right that I didn't put on a robe? The flannel.
Well, you look fine, dear.
Emily said there was root beer in the icebox.
I get it, dear. How many are there?
Only 12. The Bartletts aren't allowed to have any.
Well, if you want one, Ellie, you come out here and I'll fix you up.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Marriott.
Can you manage the tray?
Yeah, I've got it. Thank you.
The one comfort I have is that other people's daughters are just as idiotic.
Excuse me, Mommy. I've got to get the stuff.
Of course, dear. What have you got there?
Oh, cold spaghetti, steel grapes, cold lamb fat, and a piece of raw liver.
Aren't those rather bizarre refreshments, dear?
Oh, they're not refreshments. That's part of the ceremony. Huh? Oh, don't worry, Mommy. Everything's all right.
Raw liver.
I imagine it's for feeling.
Ooh.
Guess that's the idea.
What do you suppose that was? The cold spaghetti or peeled grapes? Through the evening, strange sounds drifted from Emily's bedroom across the insulating space of the living room to our retreat in the kitchen. There were cold spaghetti squeals, peeled grape squawks, and one strangling gasp, which we identified somehow or other with the cold lamb fat. About 10:30, there had been quiet for some time. I had my work spread out on the kitchen table, and Liz was sewing buttons.
Ben, do you hear something?
No? They must have exhausted the possibilities.
They're not in Emily's room, in the living room.
Huh?
Well, it sounds to me like... I'd better look.
Where are you going?
Ellie? Ellie, what's the matter?
Hello, Mrs. Mary.
Well, what's the matter, dear?
Nothing.
You're all dressed.
I'm going home.
But aren't you staying over with the rest of the girls?
No, I'm not. Good night, Mrs. Marriott. Mr. Marriott.
No, just a minute, dear. Something's wrong, isn't it?
I was thumbed down.
She was what?
You mean you're not joining Omege, Kai?
I was thumbed down. I went through it all. I did everything they said, really.
Who told you this?
Margie. But it wasn't her especially. They took a secret ballot.
Liz, I'm going to get Emily out here and ask her...
Ben, wait. Why did you get thumbed down, Ellie?
My clothes are never right. My hair always looks so... Well, you know.
They told you that?
No. They're very considerate. But I know. I shouldn't have tried to get in. I should have known I couldn't be like them. Mrs. Mary.
Oh, Ellie, there now, darling.
Oh, what do I tell my mother? She bought me a new dress for the Omege dance. I begged her and now...
Well, you can use the dress, dear.
Mom was going to buy a winter coat. And the dress is altered, so we can't return it. Oh, I could die. I could just die.
Ellen. What did Emily do while all this was going on?
Oh, she was very sorry. I could tell she was crying.
She's still in there?
She's lucky, isn't she?
Oh, I don't know. Liz, I'm going to go in there.
Ben.
They've got no right to
Ben,
behave.
you take Ellie home now.
Oh, of course.
Oh, that's all right, Mr. Marion. I don't want to trouble you.
It's no trouble, Ellie. Come on, we'll stop and get a hot chocolate. Come on, dear. I suppose it was Liz's idea that I needed a cooling off period before I barged in on the little monsters of Omege Kai. I got back home a little cooler. Liz had Emily out in the kitchen.
Mom, there just wasn't anything I could do. It was a secret ballot of members only.
Listen, Emily. I just took Ellie home. I had a talk with her mother and father. I was trying to explain. I didn't know what to say.
I know, Daddy. Oh, I could have died when they told Ellie.
Well, what did you do?
Nothing.
Did you say anything?
Well, it was all over.
And you were safely chosen. Oh, Emily.
Well, it wouldn't have helped Ellie for me to say anything.
Well, why did they do that?
I don't know. I guess she was different.
Emily, I can't understand. Do you want to stay with a group like that?
Daddy, they were awful to Ellie. I know it wasn't fair at all, but what could I do? I wasn't even a full member.
Well, you could have walked out with Ellie.
Daddy, I wanted to. I really did. But then I would have been out too. And if it danced, Margie would have asked Bobby. She's a senior. So much
prettier than I am. And I would have been all alone again. Well, it was all done anyway.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Daddy, you don't understand.
Look, Emily, we won't forbid you to join to join it. We've never done things that way.
I know, Daddy.
Up to now, we've been helping you with it, cooperating, but that's over.
Daddy,
Your father's right, Emily. We don't believe in this kind of thing. You know that.
Not in our house. After tonight, there will be no more Omega Chi activities here. You understand?
Yes.
All right. If you think you want to go back to your party.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night.
Good night, Emily.
I was disappointed in Emily. She dragged her feet across the living room, and I could hear the bedroom door close behind her. 2 days later, just before dinner, Bobby Logan showed up.
Oh, hello, Mr. Marriott.
Hi. Emily isn't home, Bobby.
Oh, yes, I know.
Oh?
She's at Margie Pastor's house.
Oh. Your blisters better?
Oh, yeah. I washed the socks.
They come out all right?
They didn't shrink at all.
Well, that's good.
The color ran.
You did?
We have argyle sheets.
Oh. How quaint. Well, Bobby?
Well, are you working again, Mr. Marriott? I could go away.
No. Sit down. I suppose you came for something.
Oh, no. Oh, yes. Yes, I wanted to ask you about Emily. Is she sick?
No. Not that I know of.
I wondered. Mr. Marriott, she's been awfully funny for 2 weeks. I know that business of not talking to me was mixed up with that sorority initiation, but that isn't all. Yesterday, somebody told me she started crying in French class.
She did?
They were doing irregular verbs.
Do you think that accounts for it?
Oh, no. Irregular verbs are hard, but not that hard.
What do you think it is?
Well, I don't know. She started to tell me something at school, but one of the girls came around the corner, so she stopped.
Oh. I suppose she has something on her mind.
She never used to. I mean, she didn't seem to think about anything. Oh, I don't mean she didn't think. She was always thinking, but well, you know.
I think I know what you mean.
One of the guys was kidding me about it. Joey Fletcher.
Oh?
He's on the soccer team.
Uh-huh.
They wanted me to play soccer, but my head was too soft.
It was?
Well, you know, you have to hit the ball with your head. I got headaches.
Oh, I can understand that.
He said, what kind of a girl cries in French class? Joey Fletcher.
I know, the soccer player. Bobby, I'm afraid Emily has the problem of all youth today.
She's delinquent?
No, not that I know of.
I don't either.
Bobby, it takes a certain amount of courage to stand up alone against a crowd.
Oh.
I'm afraid that women, I include Emily in that category.
Oh, yes.
Well, women... it's no use. I could never think of clever things to say about women.
I heard one. A woman is only a woman, but a good cigar is a smoke.
Oh.
I don't understand it.
You don't?
I don't smoke.
Oh, well, that explains it. Excuse me, Bobby. Hello? Yes, this is Mr. Marriott. Emily? Yeah. You're where? What? I'll be right there.
Is anything wrong, Mr. Marriott?
I don't know. Emily's at the police station, under custody. They said to bring a blanket.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
Emily, what is this all about?
It was part of the initiation. We had to get arrested.
Now listen, Emily, this whole thing has gone far enough.
I know.
What?
I was going to tell you, Daddy. I resigned in the police station.
You did?
I suddenly thought, isn't it silly to be sitting in the basement of a police station in my bathing suit?
Well, it is unusual.
I was thinking about Ellie. I tried to talk to her in school, but I couldn't. I was just so ashamed.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she was always my best friend, really. She's much smarter than I am, and she can draw awfully well. They said her clothes were raggedy. I suppose they were, but that isn't Ellie's fault. They just don't have the money, but that shouldn't make any difference.
No. No, it shouldn't.
Daddy, those girls are awful. The only fun they get out of being in isn't keeping somebody else out.
I think you're right.
Daddy, I knew I shouldn't stay, even before Ellie was sundown. I kept saying it wouldn't help Ellie for me to get out, but that wasn't true. I guess I really wanted to stay because of the dance and Bobby. He'll go with Margie Pastor.
He's at our house now.
He is? Well, I guess I've got to tell him now. Gee, Daddy, I know what I've got to do. But I wish I didn't have to tell Bobby.
Emily got into her robe while I briefed Liz in the bedroom. She went in to face her own valley of decision.
Bobby?
Oh, hello, Emily. Are you in trouble with the police?
No. I guess I better explain about the last few weeks.
Oh, I know. You were pledging Omega Chi.
Uh-huh. Bobby, about the Omega dance, I wanted to ask you to go.
You did? Margie Pastor asked me last week.
Oh. I'm sure you'll have a very good time with Margie.
Oh, no. No, I'm not going.
Oh, Bobby.
It isn't because of you.
It isn't?
I wouldn't have gone with you either.
Oh.
Emily, it's not that I wouldn't like to go out with you, but, well, I don't like to think that you do that sort of thing. I mean, I talked to Ellie. I was hoping you'd change your mind. Oh, Emily, I hope you don't mind my saying that.
No.
I mean, well, I didn't think you were that kind of girl.
Bobby, I'm not.
You aren't?
I resigned. I thought you'd go with Margie.
Oh, no.
Oh.
She scares me. You don't scare me, Emily.
I don't? Bobby, that's sweet of you.
Are you doing anything Saturday night, 2 weeks from now?
Well, that's the night of the dance.
I wondered, if you're not busy, would you like to go to the movies?
Let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation and transcription of The Marriage, written by Ernest Kenoy. Denise Alexander was heard as Emily Marriott, Joan Laser as Ellie, and William Redfield was heard as Bobby Logan. The Marriage is an NBC Radio Network production directed by Edward King. This is Bob Defton speaking.
Tomorrow, enjoy the Gala Voice of Firestone anniversary show on the NBC Radio Network.
Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin in The Marriage. The sponsors of this program offer no endorsement of the opinions, philosophies, stubbornness, or confusion of the persons represented therein. However, with the conviction that marriage remains the most popular domestic arrangement between friendly people, NBC takes pleasure in presenting by transcription one of the most distinguished couples of the American theater, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin as Liz and Ben Marriott in the new dramatic series, The Marriage.
In the late Renaissance, so I'm told. Families pass the evening with 8-part madrigals, string quartets, and the reading of epic poetry. Well, the Marriott living room is not exactly Florentine, but evenings at home occasionally do have a Renaissance touch. The other night, Pete sat on the floor creating with affectionate detail a 1906 Overland runabout. Emily was staring out of the window at the brick wall across the way, seeking exactly the right word for a literary effort, while Ben did the double caustic from the Sunday Times. The Da Vinci atmosphere unfortunately stopped with me.
Hey, look out.
Lift your feet.
What are you doing?
Dusting.
Down there?
The club chair, even as you and I, has feet. Lion paws, as a matter of fact.
Lion paw? Ah, I never noticed. They are, aren't they?
This lion has come overland through the Sahara.
Do you have to do that now?
Why not?
Who is the right-hand man of Edward the Confessor?
Who wants to know?
The puzzle. I tried Athelstane and Ethelbert. They didn't fit.
I'm not surprised. Pete, can you move some of that debris?
Why, Mom?
I'm dusting.
Now?
Do you mind?
No, it's all right with me.
Thank you.
Mom, was the clutch on the 1906 Overland on the left or on the right?
Ask your father, dear. He was always the expert on clutching. Oh, dear. The radiator's starting.
Ethelred, Ethelbert, Addletate.
Oh, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it bother you?
Certainly does. Edward the Confessor.
I mean the radiator.
The radiator? Oh, it's warm enough in here.
I mean the banging.
Oh, that.
I don't see how you can concentrate on anything with that knocking.
Oh, it's just a matter of being interested.
I don't even hear it. Didn't hear a thing.
Well, I think it's nerve-wracking.
Oh, I don't know. It's got a lot of rhythm. Two to tango, two to tango. Dun, 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 dun. Olé!
Well, I think it's awful. It's like living on the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. I'm going to get Mr. Lemberg up here to have him do something. Mr. Lemberg is a sweet old gentleman with a soup strainer mustache and bushy gray hair. He's the superintendent of our building, and he fights a losing battle with the machine age. I asked him to come up the next afternoon. The radiators were playing Stravinsky's Rites of Spring when he rang the buzzer. All right, Mr. Lemberg.
You want me, Mrs. Marriott?
Come in, Mr. Lemberg.
Thank you.
It's the radiators.
You don't get enough steam?
Oh, yes. They rattle.
They do?
They bang terribly.
Oh. I don't hear nothing.
Well, they were firing a fusillade till you came in. They're just hiding in ambush now.
Oh, yeah, Mrs., I understand. Them radiators are sneaky.
Yes, they are. Did you notice that?
Oh, sure. They probably knew I was coming.
I didn't mention it.
No, they got ways. Remember, there is pipes running through the whole building.
I've often worried about that.
Mrs., they know them radiators. If I'm in my good suit on Sunday, bang, 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 bang. All I gotta do is change in the overalls and hold up a wrench. Nothing.
It doesn't seem quite honest, does it?
Sneaky.
It's a little like our refrigerator door.
Oh, you got trouble with that?
Oh, it sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
If you're bending way over to get something way in the back, it sort of sidles up behind you and... Oh.
It's cold, yeah. The radiators are the worst.
Ours seems awfully clever.
Smart, them radiators. Always thinking.
Do you think we have a chance against them?
Listen, Mrs., they got their job. We got ours. We got to keep trying.
Even though we're outnumbered?
Yes. When we fool them, next time they start up, you send for me right away.
I won't say anything out loud.
You bet. We get 'em, Mrs. Well, goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Lemberg.
That's all right. Oh, Mrs. Marriott, you going to do washing today?
Why, yes, I was.
Well, look out for that washing machine on the left. It's been mad all morning. So mad. I don't know why. It always used to be so friendly. Well, goodbye, Mrs.
By supper time, the radiators had settled down to sporadic small arms fire. Ben and the children were quite conspiratorial all through dinner. I couldn't imagine why till after.
Mommy, we've got a surprise for you. I got it. Here it is.
What is it?
Open it. I haven't seen it myself.
Oh, you shouldn't have done it.
I wanted to.
Oh, you shouldn't have. Painter mat kit.
See, Mom? Open the box.
What is it?
Canvas for painting pictures.
But it's all written on.
Well, don't you see? The picture's all ready for you. All these little lines show where the colors go. See, every section is numbered.
It looks like a map of a housing project.
The paint has numbers, too.
Hey, that's clever, isn't it?
Oh, you shouldn't have done it. Believe me, Ben, you shouldn't have.
We thought it would be just the thing for you, Mommy. They're complete instructions. The man said a child of 6 could follow them.
Left a small margin for safety, eh?
Now, Liz, it's a start.
Well, you can't go wrong. The pictures are pre-tested on children of 6.
Do you think maybe I'd be too old?
Oh, no, Mother. Gosh, look at Grandma Moses. This can give you a creative outlet. It's foolproof.
And I'm just a fool to prove it?
Mom, don't you like it?
Oh, of course I do, darling. It was very sweet of both of you. Of all three of you. It was very sweet of the children. And in a way, they were quite right. I used to put a lot of creative energy into my job. And then when the kids were young, that was a big undertaking and a satisfying one. But now when they didn't need me every minute, perhaps I tended to lose myself in things like dusting. I did need some way to be creative.
Pete's right. The instructions do say a child of 6 could follow them.
Ben, Marriott, you put them up to this.
No, I didn't. Emily said they wanted to buy you some painting things. I didn't know they had a paint-a map in mind.
Paint-a map?
I think it's very clever.
Well, I'm afraid I've got to do one of them. The kids would be heartbroken if I don't. What have we got?
Let's see. Sunset at sea, the night watch, end of the trail, and the court of Nero.
I'll try that. I'd like to see a picture of the court of Nero that was pre-tested on 6-year-old children. Oh, Grandma Marriott went at it. I squeezed the tiniest cube of number 76, which turned out to be a sort of mud green, and carefully filled in space 76, which turned out to be a section of anatomy of one of the court ladies. The Paint-A-Mat Company evidently was privy to several extremely advanced 6-year-olds. To tell you the truth, I enjoyed it, in spite of the instructions. The next day, on my way home from the supermarket, I wandered into the community center.
Can I help you?
I'd like to ask about painting.
Oh, of course. Now, which kind would you like? Sketch, water, oils, pastels, landscape, and light. You have to be married for light.
Well, I didn't know you were so strict. My marriage is fairly stable, but you never can tell, can you?
No. I mean life class. They use models, so we have to be careful.
I understand. I think that's a little advanced for me. Do you have anything for beginners?
Oh, yes. That's our Mr. Dandria. He's on television.
I didn't know they had artists on television.
Oh, yes. Yes, he draws Dickie the Weatherbird for the Midnight Weather Report.
He sounds formidable.
Oh, no, Mr. Dandria is wonderful with beginners. He makes it so simple. Why, it could be followed by a 6-year-old child.
I could see that the art world was hep to my level. Wherever I turned, I was immediately classified with the other 6-year-olds. I signed up for the class and bought a small set of oils, brushes, and charcoal. The family was very understanding.
Now remember to button your smock up to the neck, Mom. That's the blouse I want to borrow this weekend.
I'll try to be careful.
Mom, can I give you some advice?
Of course, Pete.
Listen in class.
Yes.
And do what the teacher says.
I'll try.
It pays off.
I'm sure it does. Well, I suppose I might as well go.
Liz, wait a minute.
Did I forget something?
Let me look at you.
Why?
Whenever I see them go off to school for the first time, I just get a big lump right here.
You look out or I'll give you a big lump somewhere else. And so, with head held high, a furtive tear lurking in my eye, I braved the new world of the community center adult beginners art class. We all perched on high stools in front of our easels and waited for the master. My neighbor on the right was a large, cheerful woman, Mrs. Joachim.
And so I told Max, you put the kids to bed. Tonight, I'm going to learn painting. He says to me, what do you want to learn painting for? You're another Toulouse-Lautrec? Isn't that silly?
It certainly is.
I don't even look like Jose Ferrer.
Have you ever painted before?
I couldn't even draw a straight line. Actually, I come to see Mr. Dandria. Do you think he looks like on television?
I've never seen him on television. Is he handsome?
I don't know. All you see is his left wrist when he draws the weather bird. He has very attractive knuckles.
That's half the battle, isn't it? Oh, here he is.
You recognize the wrist?
Who else would wear a beard and a Scotch plaid beret? It was Mr. Dandria. He hung his red serape on a hat rack and started right in.
Now then, everybody. 3/4 of the way up the paper, about 4 inches from the left-hand side, draw a small circle. Ready? Like this.
There. Oh, look at that. A small circle. Oh, Max should be here.
Mr. Dandria.
Questions later.
What are we drawing?
Don't worry, Mrs.
Marion.
I never lost a student yet.
I don't like to be surprised.
Inhibited, Mrs. Marion?
Yes. A weak heart.
Well, I won't keep you in suspense. The first drawing is Dickie the Weatherbird.
Oh, that is wonderful. The Weatherbird.
Mr. Dandria went on. We drew by numbers. Circles, squares, wavy lines. Hup, tup, thrup, 4. And eventually, on 12 easels, there were 12 exact reproductions of a scrawny chicken with wind-blown wattles. Ben was waiting up for me when I got home.
How'd it go?
Fine. Fine. Anytime you want a drawing of Dickie the Weatherbird, feel free to call on me.
How'd you like it?
I was expelled.
Expelled?
Really, Ben. It was as ridiculous as that awful paint-o-mat, and I told him so.
What did you say?
He invented the paint-o-mat. The family took my expulsion from art class philosophically. Pete even restrained himself from saying, I told you so. Gradually, the specter of mother as Grandma Moses faded. But now I had a guilty secret. In the daytime, when everybody was safely occupied with the world's affairs, I plied my clandestine art. I had sniffed the heady aroma of turpentine, and I was hooked. Presumably, I would soon be injecting it directly into an artery. Once I was caught red-handed. Well, blue-handed, as a matter of fact. Cobalt blue.
What are you doing, lady?
Huh? Oh, how did you get in?
Lundberg let me in with the pass key. I'm the plumber.
Oh, the plumber.
Mind if I set my tools down?
Are you supposed to fix the radiator?
Yeah. How do you like that? Radiators after all these years.
You don't like radiators?
Oh, it ain't that. I can take them and let them alone. You see, lady, I'm a sink man.
A sink man?
Lady, I can tell what a sink is stopped up with just by listening to the gurgle.
I used to be able to do that with a baby.
It's much the same. Except, of course, them new garbage machines on the drain.
That would be a little complex.
Oh, it isn't that. I keep losing fountain pens down it. You know, lean over to look the sink. The pen falls out of your pocket. That's all.
We don't have one.
Besides one of those machines, you identify your garbage. Maybe you got company in the front room. All of a sudden they hear... They know what you do in that machine.
They do? Sounds like a great parlor game. Well, I don't want to keep you from your work. I'll just go on with what I'm doing. What? What do you mean,
Well, lady, a yellow cow is unnatural.
Look, young man, if I want to paint it puce with cinnamon stripe, that's my affair. I've had enough art instruction. If I want advice about stuffed sinks, I'll come to you. But in the meantime, I'll stuff my own sink. I mean, I'll paint my own picture.
Well, okay, lady. Don't get sore. If you want to make it a jurisdictional dispute, okay.
Let's leave it that way.
Okay. Whoever heard of a yellow cow?
It was a few weeks later that I was exposed. Emily was rummaging in the storage closet looking for ice skates when she turned off my hidden hoard of canvases. She brought them out into the living room all tied together.
Daddy, look what I found.
Emily, you put those back.
What are they?
Canvas boards for paintings.
Liz, those yours? You've really been painting. That's wonderful.
Oh, they're nothing, really. What's on television?
Hey, kids, we're going to have a one-woman show. Pete, let me your scout knife.
Sure, Pop.
No, stop it, Ben.
I think it's very exciting. Emily, Pete, everybody, let's sit down.
Oh, well, they're nothing, really.
Let's see.
Well, all right. You see, I wanted to paint some of the things I remembered when I was a little girl. You know, the country, the old houses, the farm animals next door. I mean, anybody can paint them better, but I'm the only one who remembers them the way I do. The whole thing seemed to be slipping away from me, and I did want you to understand. The children, too.
Let's see what they look like. There.
Well, now, this is the barn of the Slocums next door.
Uh-huh.
This one is the old house, the rock in front. We used to sit on that and pretend it was a throne. And this is... don't you like them?
Oh, they're very nice, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very interesting.
Oh, yes. Well, it's the kind of thing Norman Rockwell draws for the Saturday Evening Post. Don't you just love his drawings? I mean, they're so real.
But these are not supposed to be real. I was just remembering.
Oh, of course, dear. It's been a long time.
I could draw better when I was 5.
Pete.
Well, I could. A yellow cow?
Now, Liz, pay no attention to that. They're... you know, the chimney isn't in the right perspective. Would you like me to show you about the vanishing point and parallel receding lines?
No, I don't care about perspective. As a matter of fact, I'm sick of the whole business.
Where are you going?
I'm going to throw them all in the trash can.
No, wait a minute, Liz.
I'm all through with them anyway.
Oh, wait a minute.
I had the fun of painting them. I knew what I was thinking of, even if nobody else did.
Liz, these were your first paintings. Naturally, they're a little... but they're very nice. I'm sure you'll improve with practice.
What's the use? Pete could draw better when he was 5. There. Now let's forget about the whole thing. They were all very nice to me. They took me out to dinner to Emily's favorite restaurant, and we all had Pete's favorite food to cheer me up. Ben added to the celebration with a movie in the evening, which he'd been very anxious to see. It was Moulin Rouge, which I thought was most appropriate. All about poor Toulouse-Lautrec who wanted to paint. But Mrs. Joachim was wrong. She looked exactly like Jose Ferrer. About a week later, things were back to normal in the Marriott Menage.
Hey, look out.
Lift your feet.
You just dusted this chair.
That was 2 weeks ago. Lift.
I thought they were supposed to be fixed.
They were. Oh, Ben, this is too much. It's ridiculous. I'm going down to get Mr. Lemberg right now.
All right.
I'll get rid of that banging if they have to rip out the whole steam system and go back to a pot-bellied stove. I marched down the stairs to the rhythm of the pipes playing a farandole, which increased in tempo as I went along. So by the time I rang Mr. Lemberg's door, I was short of breath and shorter of temper.
Yeah? Oh, Mrs. Marriott.
Mr. Lemberg.
I know, Mrs. It's the radiator sandwich. Well, they stopped. I just got out the wrench.
You've got to do something, Mr. Lemberg. They're just sitting there trying to drive me crazy.
Like in the movies, yeah. Nobody believes you, as I understand. Well, I get my tools, Mrs. Oh, come in, sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Lemberg.
I'll be ready in a moment.
I stepped into Mr. Lemberg's basement apartment and stopped short. There, on the walls, in the most beautiful carved wood frames, were my pictures. All of them.
Well, I'm all ready now, Mrs.
Mr. Lemberg, those pictures...
Oh, yeah. Funny thing, I found them in the trash. Somebody just threw them away. I had these frames. My father was a woodcarver in the old country. They just fit, don't they?
Mr. Lemberg, you like these pictures?
Well, I tell you, Mrs. Marriott, I'm in this country maybe 30 years. I'm a citizen. My son was in the army in the war. But still, you got to remember how it was when you were a little fella. You know?
I know.
I saw those pictures in the trash, and right away I remembered. Now, look. Those hills could be the Schwarzwald when I was a little boy. No, not exactly, but that's the way I remember it. And in the bright sun, the cows look yellow, with the trees big, very big.
And the shadows very black and terrifying.
Yeah, and that village could be Dittersdorf, just like I remember. The houses look like people.
Fat little people with staring eyes.
Yeah.
And the church tower like a tall, thin schoolmaster.
That's it, yeah, just like Herr Schnabel. Mrs., was you ever in Dittersdorf?
No, not exactly.
Mrs., I give you one.
Oh, no.
Now, listen, why not? Somebody threw them in the trash. Why shouldn't you enjoy them?
But Mr. Lemberg with the
Oh, I
frame.
got lots more. Papa was always carving. You should see the kitchen chairs. Here, Mrs. You take this picture. Eh?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Lemberg. Oh, you don't know what a wonderful present this is.
So, now we get them crazy radiators.
Ben and Liz Marriott will be back in just a moment. In the meantime, let us extend an invitation on behalf of our stars, Jessica Tandy and Hume Cronin, as well as the National Broadcasting Company, to all of you to drop by next week at this time for another half-hour observation and transcription of The Marriage, written by Ernest Ganoy. Emily and Pete Marriott were played by Denise Alexander and David Pfeffer. Mr. Lemberg was Bill Griffiths, Miss Keynes, Anne Petoniak, Mrs. Joachim, Adelaide Klein, Mr. Dandria, Burford Hampton, and the plumber was played by Ralph Bell. The Marriage is an NBC radio production directed by Edward King. This is Bob Denton speaking.
Mr. Lemberg had the pictures up on his wall?
Oh, he was so sweet. He said they reminded him of his childhood.
You know, Liz, looks fine hanging there.
It's a beautiful frame.
Reminds me of Central Park when I was a kid.
Oh, Ben. Oh, Ben, thank you. Good night.
Good night, darling.
Make kitchen chores lighter with music and drama on the NBC Radio Network.